Fucking hell. Thank fuck I'm live now. I'm telling you, YouTube and Google, but mainly Google, since this is Google Hangouts. You guys gotta fucking step up your A game for making this fucking thing work. Like, holy shit. When I click start broadcast and I have to wait 30 minutes, not 30 minutes, 30 seconds for your fucking message prompt to tell me you're going to go live now. You can broadcast up to 8 hours. And I have to click OK, even though I've been clicking OK for fucking almost a year now. I should not have to anymore. It should be fucking convenient. Like, oh, he constantly uses it. He doesn't need to know these. Does not need to know these prompts. He doesn't need to see them. It's like Steam. Steam, once you set up your account and you're over the age of 18, you don't, when you look at an 18 or older fucking thing and they need an age date to confirm that you are over 18, it already has it. All you have to do is click enter. That's it. That's it. You don't have to go through months, day, and fucking year scrolling through to get to your birthday and your month and all that. It's all convenient. Do that, Google. Get your heads out of your asses and fucking do that, please. Thank you. I'm in a bad mood today. Real one. Real bad one. I slept in because apparently my alarm didn't go off. All three of them. I have one set for 4 in the morning, 4:15, and then 4:30 because I've been getting picked up later, and we've been slowing down because of the work year is winding down, and so I'm like, oh, all right. And usually I'll set my clocks like 3 o'clock, 3:15, 3:30. So by the time I leave the house to walk to work, I'm there by like 5:30, give or take, plus or minus 5 minutes, depending if I stop for coffees. But for some reason, my alarms didn't go off today. Then my father tried calling me 4 times while I was sleeping, and he just called me when I was clicking to start the broadcast. Uh, when you're making the stream, you can go live now. I chose that. And so it opened the Google Hangouts window and everything started loading. He called me. And what did he call me for? He needs me to piss in a cup because one of the workers at the shop, Bobby, who's my father's assistant, he's on probation and he has a color coding system for his probation. If he has his color, because you're given a set color, so we'll say for this one, it's orange. So you call up on your probation day, and if they say today's color is orange, that means you're going to be going in for a piss test. Well, Bobby ain't clean because he needs clean urine to drop so he doesn't go to jail and fail probation. What's my father do? Ah, Darth's a straight arrow. He's fine. I'll just call him up and tell him, hey, I want you to piss in a cup. And I'm like, no. Like one, what am I gonna piss into? Two, I don't know him. Like there's no like if he disappears from the shop, it doesn't affect my job. Doesn't affect your job because you practically do all the work yourself anyways. And three, not once has there been a mention of compensation. I'm not being compensated for my time spent pissing in a cup. Like, it's payday today, and my father was trying to bribe me by going, "Oh, well, we'll be driving down there." Oh, and I'll get to that in a second. He goes, "Oh, well, I can drive down there and bring you your check." No, no, that's not how it works. Donald is not going to give you my like 500 some odd dollar check so you can bring it to me with Bobby. Like, Donald doesn't trust you as much as you think, and he definitely doesn't trust Bobby. He's not going to have you two bumbling idiots driving into the city to supposedly drop off my check, because then if I don't get the check, that's going to make Donald pissed off, and it's going to make you two lose your jobs. He ain't doing it. Plus, my father owes me money still for the coffees I keep fucking buying him every goddamn morning. But here's the kicker. This is the thing that really pisses me off. There's a timetable. There's a set clock counting down as I speak to you. 5 p.m. is the latest he can go in to take the piss test. If he doesn't get there at 5 p.m. with some clean urine, he's going to jail. And my father likes him because they're friendly to one another. Because they've been working with each other for like, I don't know, a fucking month. Maybe a month and a half. I don't fucking know. Like, I barely notice Bobby half the time because he comes in 5, 10 minutes late all the time. And we're usually working by then. So, like, my father's fucking bitching at me. And then when he's like, well, I gotta fucking do this before 5. So, we're heading over there right now. And I also don't have that much time on my phone. And I'm saving, like, what few minutes I have left on my phone time for text messaging. You know, if I get a ride or something, or to text someone, hey, can you pick me up? Or to text, like, Scott and tell him, hey, I'm going to be late. So tell your father I'm going to be late by like 5 minutes. That's gone. Like, the last few minutes I had wasted because my father fucking was asking about that. And he was telling me he has a lot of big favors to ask of me. And he only got one out because he kept rambling about it. Fucking stupid. Absolutely stupid. Just another day in my life. Just another day in my life. Yep. Uh, Other than that, came close to punching Chris Monday again. That oh, that day was a shit show. I think I already told you, Sten, about it. Like, the fact that he was doing his man spreading again with his leg across the cab, and as soon as he saw me climb in, he moved that leg. And then once we got to the first job site, that stopped. And then his fucking, oh god, like, I'm telling you, I have called it time and time again. This motherfucker is not stupid. He's playing us. He's playing everyone. Also, Josh told me that he will not stop heckling Josh over the 2 hours he lost. He has not given in. He will not lose. He will die on that hill until that $20 is put in his fucking hand. Because he bitched about it Monday after me and Sean left. Because What happened Monday was I got a ride with Orlando. He texted me like at 5:50 in the fucking morning. Hey, do you need a ride? And I was already at Dunkin' Donuts, like a couple blocks away. I was gonna get a cab ride or take the bus, and I was like, all right. So I didn't get anything from Dunkin' Donuts. Walked back to my house, which is only like 3-4 blocks away, and I got a ride. And when we get to the shop, I talked to my. We stopped at a Cumberland Farms. I got coffee and tea there. I talked to my father for about 25-30 minutes. And when we get down to start work, Donald's already in a pissy mood. And the reason why is three people have appointments, two of them at 12 o'clock. Sean has to leave at 12 o'clock because, matter of fact, I will talk about Sean second. Uh, Chris has to leave at 12, which makes me wonder why the fuck did Chris come in anyways? Because there's been times where Chris will say he has an appointment at 12 and that he can't come into work, but he came into work anyways. Okay. He's probably going to bitch about, why did I get 3 hours Monday? And it's going to be like, well, you had a fucking appointment and you just left at 12. And I had to drive you to the shop. Sean has an appointment at 12. And my father has an appointment, but he doesn't know what time it is because he didn't write the fucking time down. So he had to call around 8 o'clock for the clinic for his appointment. And so Donald's in a pissy fucking mood because two of the people on landscaping are leaving, which means half the landscaping jobs that had to be done Monday aren't going to be done. So when Donald finally notices that I'm down there with everybody else, he kind of mellows out because he's like, oh, well, at least Darth's here. So that means Josh and Darth can fucking do some of the work. Now, what Sean told me and Josh when we first started at like 7, he told us that his grandson, who's like, oh God, like 3-4 months old, needs a helmet or a plate or something because like the shape of his head's malformed for some reason. And so he needs to go to the hospital for it. And so he needs to drive his daughter and his grandson to the hospital. That's what he told us first. Then the second thing he said was he needs an eye exam because his glasses aren't working properly. And so he needs to go and get his eyes checked out so that he can get another prescription for glasses. And then the third one, he was rambling and it was so incoherent, I couldn't tell. And the reason why is he took 10 Xanax before he came in, on top of the methadone he takes every morning. Uh, so we have an idiot, Chris, and we have someone completely balls to the walls, high as a fucking kite. And Sean was so fucking high Monday. The second house we did, Tucker's house. Oh, God, it must have been like 9 o'clock in the morning. I had finished raking the whole front yard by myself. Sean and Chris were just talking about Chris's car in the back. They had barely done a quarter of the backyard, and the backyard and the front yard are not that big. Like, I've helped rake out most of the back, and then I helped Josh in the front with the gutters. And Sean comes walking up to me while Josh is fucking has his hand right in the gutter, and I'm holding the ladder for him. Sean walks up and goes, "Where are we?" I'm like, "We're at Tucker's house." What? When did we get here? I'm like 45 minutes to an hour ago. Really? What day is it? I'm like, it's Wednesday. Wednesday? What? You can't. No, no, no. I'm sorry. That was yesterday. Yesterday, like it goes. I'll explain that. But he did not know where the fuck he was and what the fuck we were doing. He was so high. And he asked me about 25 minutes after he asked me where we were. He asked me again where we were because he didn't know. And so Tucker's wife came out probably 10 minutes after he asked me the first time with a pot of coffee, 4 mugs, sugar, milk, and cookies. And she said if anybody wanted hot chocolate or tea instead of coffee, she could make them then. Eh, I just had a cup of coffee. And while me, Sean, and Chris immediately beelined it over to make a cup of coffee because that'll waste time. I was thirsty, so he went over there. And so I turned to Josh and I was like, "Do you want me to get you your cup? Do you want me to make you the cup? Like, just tell me like how many sugars and stuff." He's like, "No, I'm almost done. Go get yourself a cup." And so I walk over and I make myself a cup. And while I'm standing there putting sugar in my fucking coffee, fucking Chris goes, "I wonder if Josh is going to dock us all for having a coffee break." And I'm like, "You cheeky cunt." Like, my blood was boiling at that comment because it just made him more of a scumbag. Not to mention, not to mention, Chris does not know how to make a cup of coffee. And so when you make a cup of coffee, the way I've been taught, like if that even is possible. But when you make a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or anything that implies putting a hot liquid drink into a cup and you need to add ingredients to it, like sugar or coffee or creamer or milk, I was always taught use a clean, dry spoon, put your sugar in first, then put the coffee in or tea bag, and then you put the water in. And then when that's done, you put the cream or milk. That's how I was taught. Because one of my biggest pet fucking peeves, and I have inherited it from my father and my grandfather and the rest of my family. My entire family fucking despises when somebody makes a cup of coffee, mixes their fucking coffee, like they put like say four teaspoons of sugar inside the coffee. They pour the coffee in the creamer, they mix it, they taste it, and they're like, that's not enough sugar. They then take their wet, coffee covered fucking spoon and dip it right into the sugar. And that ruins sugar. It ruins sugar. If you put a fucking spoon that is damp into sugar, especially if it has, fucking sugar in it and stuff, it congeals the sugar and it actually promotes fucking bacteria because bacteria love sugar. And so it fucking ruins the sugar. Not to mention it clumps, it's just awful. Fucking Chris pours his coffee first, pours the milk in, mixes it, then he just shovels fucking spoonful after spoonful after spoonful. Missed the fucking he missed the fucking cup that was sitting stationary on the fucking picnic table when he was pouring his coffee. He was an inch away from the cup. I don't know how you can fuck up pouring something into a cup, especially when it has a spout. It's a fucking coffee pot. You put the lip if you cannot physically pour it into the cup without doing this, you are an idiot. Like I could easily take my bottle of soda and pour it into a fucking cup. But if you can't do that, you take the fucking lip, like the ridge on the coffee pot or the fucking soda, and you tip the cup so that the lip of the fucking container is touching the lip of your mug, and then you pour it. That way you're not going to spill anything and you'll be able to get it in there. Like, an idiot could pour a cup of coffee. Chris is an inch away from his fucking cup, and he just poured probably a good half cup's worth of coffee right on the fucking coffee table. Splattered everywhere. Splattered fucking everywhere. Then he moves, and while it's still pouring, he finally goes, like, his brain goes inaccurate, and then he moves it, and he starts pouring it. Then he pours the milk, and he totally fucking forgets there's a limit to how much you can fit inside a cup. So now coffee mixed with milk is now overflowing in his cup, and it's getting all over the fucking place. And I grab the fucking jar of sugar and get it out of the way before it gets fucking covered in coffee. I grab the Splenda, because she also brought Splenda out for us. Grab that, moved out of the way, move the cookies out of the way, move the basket with the napkins and the spoons out of the way, moved my mug, Sean's mug, and Josh's mug out of the fucking way. And that's when Chris stopped, because then he realized, oh, I'm making a mess. Then he drank half of it, realized, oh, I forgot to put sugar in. Then he takes his fucking wet fucking spoon and starts shoveling fucking spoonful after spoonful after spoon. Must have put 10 fucking spoonfuls of sugar. And I'm not talking like leveled, I'm talking rounded. Right into that fucking cup, mixed it, and he just drank it. Like, he is the perfect example of what, like, an alien would be like if they were trying to pretend to be human. Like, if an alien tried to infiltrate human society without knowing anything about how human interaction and human etiquette is done, Chris would be the perfect example of how that would happen. Like, all he would have to say is, this human beverage is delicious, and just keep drinking it. And I'd be like, you're a fucking alien. Mac, get the flamethrower. Get the flamethrower. We have an alien amongst us. He's a reptilian. He's one of the fucking aliens from They Live. Like, it is mind-boggling how this human being who is 22 years old cannot feasibly make a cup of coffee without making a mess. I have seen 8-year-olds. I have seen children make fucking cups of coffee for their parents, or make cups of tea, or make fucking hot chocolate, or fucking take ladlefuls of soup out of a pot and not make a mess. I have seen children make less of a mess making something to eat or drink. And Chris is just, I gotta work with him tomorrow. Because he wants to work. Ugh. So we get done at Tucker's. We now have to go to Mindy's, which is a 10-minute drive. It's literally next to the Dunkin' Donuts I stop at before walking to the shop. Front yards barely has any leaves. That's all we're doing. Fall cleanup. Josh takes the mower off. He starts mowing the front lawn. Sean takes the push mower and brings it into the back because we can't fit one of the regular fucking walk behind mowers because she has a gate and fence. And I start raking, and Chris starts raking as well. Now Sean's high as a kite. He forgets that he has to take the bag off the mower, because if you don't take the bag off the mower, you leave a massive trail of clippings. And there's a lot of pine needles and leaves back there. He is shredding the leaves and the pine needles and the grass, and he's leaving just mounds of it everywhere. which means we're going to have to rake the whole lawn clean, which I start doing. Chris goes into one of the corners that I've already raked, pretends to rake for about 5-10 minutes, and decides, nah, I'm not doing this. I'm gonna weed whack, even though Josh specified do not bring any of the weed whackers. We don't need to weed whack. Does it anyways. He starts weed whacking the beds in the front, which he did not rake, eviscerating all the leaves, which means after Josh has finished mowing, which means now Josh has to either A, rake them up, or B, get the fucking mower off the trailer again, put the bag back on, go back over there, start the mower up, mow over it to suck up the leaves, bag it, and then load everything back onto the trailer. And after seeing him do this, just just the complications of dealing with Sean being high as a kite, the fact that I'm the only one practically doing all the work, raking the fucking shit, and then seeing Chris decide, yeah, fuck it, I don't want to do work now because like in half an hour to an hour, I'm gonna be leaving. Like my blood just started boiling. Like I started overheating and sweating in like 30-degree weather. So I had to take my shirt off. So I was bare chested fucking raking a fucking backyard. I'm fucking mumbling to myself. My fists are firmly clenched around the rake. And I have my shirt, my lunchbox, and my sunglasses sitting on the rock wall around the koi pond in the back of Mindy's yard. Chris weed whacked him. Chris could not tell the difference between the top of a rock wall where there is no weeds, where there's a big black fucking like lunchbox with a fucking blue t-shirt and a pair of fucking reflective mirrored aviators, and the bottom of it where there's weeds and grass, like a little bit of tall grass growing here and there. And the top of the wall is about 2 feet high, meaning he lifted the fucking weed whacker 2 feet up into the air off the fucking ground and started weed whacking the top of the fucking wall where there are no fucking weeds. And he weed whacked and gashed probably 7, 8 fucking gashes onto the side of my lunchbox, eviscerated my shirt, and broke my fucking sunglasses. And when he realized this, and I'm raking, and I see what, because I hear the sound. It's you can tell when you hit something and when you're weed whacking. Like as soon as I hear this sound of broken material and fucking glasses breaking, I turn over and there's Chris dropping the weed whacker, fumbling to try and make it look like it wasn't an accident, like nothing has happened, turning my lunchbox the opposite way so I can see the back of it, but I can't see the front of it. Him trying to put my sunglasses on top of my lunchbox again and putting them close together so it looks like they're not broken. And then tucking my fucking shirt underneath my lunchbox. That's when I dropped my rake, walked over to the front, walked up to Josh, and I told him, if you do not send this child home now, I'm going to kill him. And Josh is like, what? And I'm like, he just weed whacked my fucking lunchbox, eviscerated my t-shirt, and broke my fucking sunglasses because he was weed whacking the top of the fucking koi wall, the stone wall that wraps around the koi pond in the backyard. And he just tried covering it up. After, me telling him about 20 minutes ago to help me rake the backyard, he decided, fuck it, I'm going to weed whack, even though you told him not to weed whack. If he does not leave, I'm going to kill him. And so Josh came out into the back and he told Chris, put the fucking weed whacker away, go outside, go out front and rake up the fucking leaves that you fucking weed whacked. in an effort to keep him away from me and at the same time have him do something productive. And so when fucking everything was said and done with, and I cleared everything in the back and raked it all and bagged it, I walked over to my shit, grabbed my fucking eviscerated shirt, stuffed it into the lunchbox, grabbed my broken sunglasses, threw them into the trash can, and carried my fucking ripped up fucking lunchbox, and I just hurled it into the back of the fucking 1 ton where all the leaves and shit were. And I climb into the fucking I climb into the fucking cab, and the first words out of anybody's fucking mouth was Chris's. How aren't you cold? You're not wearing a shirt. It's raining. Chris, don't fucking say a word to me. And he was silent. The rest, the 10, 15-minute fucking drive back to the shop. And the plan was for me and Josh to drop Sean and Chris at the shop and then go back out. But it started to rain. So when we went into the shop, Donald told both of us, nah, just pack everything up, put the mowers back to the shop. We'll do everything tomorrow. So I had to load everything up. And by the time I was done, it was a half hour after we'd gotten back. So I worked an extra half hour instead of Chris and fucking Sean. Chris stayed there to bitch and complain about how he's still missing the $20 from fucking weeks ago. And he starts asking Josh about it again. Sean was nodding out behind the wheel of his fucking van. And when he noticed that I was still there, he offered me a ride home. And so I got a ride with him. And he told me that this is the third story now about why he had to leave at 12. He just didn't want to go to work and work all day because he knew it was going to rain. So he guesstimated when the rain was supposed to come from like the two weather stations he heard. One was saying around 11 and one was saying around noon. He took the one around noon. So that's it. And so I went home, bought a brand new pair of sunglasses, threw my fucking shirt into the fucking trash can, and I fucking used electrical tape to tape up most of the gashes on my fucking lunchbox. Whoopee. I honestly think that I am going to fight Chris tomorrow with how annoyed I am. It is insane. Like, that's how close I am to knocking him the fuck out. He brings no fucking goddamn help. He is dead weight. That is all he is dead fucking weight. If you want him to actually work, like, you have to be on his ass the entire time, hovering over his shoulder, telling him, no, you're not going anywhere. You're going to finish this. Or, okay, now you're done. Now you're going to be coming with me to do this, and you're not leaving my sight. Which means that you aren't doing all the work that you should be doing because you're also, not only are you working, but you're also babysitting. Like you're a fucking sheep herder. Like, it's absolutely insane. And I'm getting sick and tired of knowing, like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm hauling hundreds of pounds of fucking grass clippings, leaves, and shit that we just mowed off of a fucking field, walking it a fucking 20, 30 yards towards the fucking truck and dumping it. And then Chris is over there fucking just walking around taking 20, 30 pisses, and he's getting paid the same much hourly as I am. And he's not even lifting a fucking finger. Chris won't lift a barrel. It's too heavy. If it's 40 pounds, won't lift it, too heavy. 100 pounds, won't lift it, too heavy. I've seen him rake up one pile, put into a barrel, and it's probably about 5 pounds worth of leaves, and he'll carry the fucking barrel, which could probably hold 30 times that, carry it out to the truck, dump it right on the fucking tailgate, not in the back of it, and walk back. And he'll do that constantly. It'll take him fucking 30 walks to do the whole to do a whole front lawn the size of Tucker's. But I was able to fit like the whole backyard into 5 barrels. And the front yard, not counting what Josh mowed, probably 3 barrels. Well, that's the thing, Sten. He does find another way to deal with it. He leaves us to do it. Like if me, him, and Sean were raking up the same pile with only 1 barrel, Sean or I would have to pick up the barrel and carry it or drag it, depending on how heavy it is. Like that's the bullshit. Come on, phone. Got a fucking text message. Can't answer it because I don't have time on my phone. Told him while I was talking to him, don't have time on my phone. Well, that's the thing. Like, all of us have sat there and told him, like, why don't you just drag the barrel to the fucking truck? Why don't you do that? Why don't you lift the barrel? Like, why don't you have one of us help you? Which in itself is moot because one of us could just lift it besides Chris. Like, Chris has been mocked about when he's not there because I have told Josh, like, this is like the 9th, 10th time this year I've told him I want to beat the fuck out of him. And Josh will always say, well, you better be careful because Chris brags that he's a prized fighter. And it's like, well, if he's a prized fighter and he does fucking like boxing lessons and shit, why does it like that would mean that he has to work out? And looking at his physique, just by the way he is, he's scrawny as fuck. Like, he must weigh all of 90 pounds soaking wet. It's insane. He can't lift things. He physically. It's funny because I have actually told him twice this entire year to lift something himself because I was not going to lift it, and he was struggling. One of them was a barrel of grass clippings, which weighed all of it 90 pounds probably. And I was sitting on a stone wall after taking a break because I had just finished mowing an entire field, and that was the last barrel. And not Josh, fucking Chris came up to me. He's like, "What do you want me to do?" I was like, "Lift that barrel, bring it back to the truck, and dump it." Is it heavy? I was like, "Eh, it's 3/4 full. It's not that heavy." Oh, I'll try. And he started struggling. It was like a child trying to lift something heavy. His legs are shaking, his fucking arms are all fucking flimsy, he's wobbling back and forth because he's unbalanced. Like, it looked like if his legs gave out, the whole barrel and him would fall onto his back, and the barrel would land on his chest, and his whole face would have been covered with fucking grass clippings. And I kept telling him while he was trying to lift it, lift with your legs, not with your back. Like, You don't know how many times I say that at work. Sean doesn't listen. Josh doesn't listen. Nobody listens to my fucking advice. Lift with your legs, not with your back. That's common sense etiquette when you're lifting something. You use your legs to torque it up. Your back will fucking break. You will severely hurt the muscles in your back. You will strain yourself. You use your legs, it's not as bad. In fact, it's quite easy. No, Jen, you could probably lift more than this kid. He gets tired holding a weed whacker. Like, this summer alone, he took his shirt off because he was sweating too much because the weed whacker was too heavy. Because it was holding. It's a fucking weed whacker. It weighs all of 5 fucking pounds. And it even comes with a harness strap. If you have a sling strap, like I do, because I have a lot of airsoft stuff and a lot of military surplus, like if you have a strap, you can clip the fucking thing and wrap it around your shoulder or towards where your neck is, so it can just hang there like a fucking rifle, and you can walk around. It even comes with a fucking handle that juts out to the left, so you put your left hand on it, and then you can just move it. Like it's not that heavy, even with a full tank, and the tank only holds. Christ, I don't even know. Probably 4 cups of gasoline, like 4 or 5 cups gasoline tops, and that's a far ballpark estimate. Like it does not take much gas, and if you're not holding it full throttle, that tank will last you quite a few hours. It's too heavy for him. Like we would like when we weed whacked and mowed the park, we'd start at the top where the dump is, and probably I'd say a half mile down is where the intersection is, and then there's another half-mile road going towards some buildings on a side street, and then probably another half mile or so goes down to the main area of the park, and then the rest of the park is probably a mile in length. Like if he walked it, it'd be like 2.5 miles one way. If he was just weed whacking one side of all the streets, like he'd walk probably 2.5 miles, and he'd probably get half a mile, and he'd either text Josh to tell him that the fuck he's tired and he's taking a break, or if I was weed whacking alongside him and I was on the opposite side of the street, he would immediately walk over, tap me on the shoulder, and tell me, "Can we take a break? I'm tired. This is heavy." And I'm using an older we have an older model, which is a lot fucking heavier, probably, and that not even a lot heavier, as in like it's 30 pounds and it's fucking the size of a house because it's from the 50. No, like probably 8 pounds tops, and that's because it has a bigger gas tank and the motor's a little bigger. That's it. Like, and more of it's made of steel than aluminum. And I'll just look at him like, what? Like you're not like, and I'm carrying a lunchbox. Like my lunchbox has a sling on it. I sling that over my back. It sits right on the fucking back of my waist or the back of my hip. That's got 4 ice packs, usually during the summer, probably 5 or 6 drinks in it. And then the top pouch has my notepads for jotting down notes for my lore and stuff when I have a break. My cigarette pack, my spare cigarette pack, I should say. 2 extra lighters, my lighter fluid in case I run out, a sharpening knife, or a sharpening handle to sharpen my knife, a Bic lighter just in case, my gloves, and a couple pens and markers. Because sometimes we'll have to write something or mark something down, and everybody's always asking for a pen, looking for a pen, or asking for a marker, or looking for one. And so I have spare ones just in case. Not only that, but on my fucking belt, I have my Air Force survival knife, my keys, which have a lot of fucking shit hanging off of them, my holster with my Zippo, and then on my left side, I usually have my canteen and my phone case. Like I am holding far more weight than he is because Chris doesn't want to bring his lunchbox with him because it's like one of those little fucking plastic coolers. He leaves at in the truck so that when he wants to take a break and have lunch, he can call Josh and have Josh drive it up to him like a fucking delivery boy. And then he sits down, eats his lunch. Josh has to stay there. Like it's just a shit show. And here I am carrying all this weight on my waist and back and fucking holding this weed whacker, and I can work the whole fucking day without really much of a complaint. And halfway down the fucking main road, there's Turtle Crossing, which is a side street, and it's the most idyllic, peaceful place in the whole park. It's nice and calm, and I sit on the fucking stone wall and I just sit there and enjoy nature, smoking a cigarette and eating my lunch if I have it, or drinking my drink. And then once that 20-minute break's over, I go right back to work. And I'm just outrunning Chris by like a mile. Sad. Very sad. And he's also been asking us constantly if we're doing the park. And the reason why is he gets to slack off. Keep getting text. I don't have fucking time on my phone. I'm sorry, George. I don't have time. You fucking wasted it when you called me for this stupid fucking piss test shit. Like the last thing I told him was I've got probably a minute tops before this phone fucking cuts out the call because I've run out of time. He's like, well, I'll be real quick. I just need you to fucking piss in a cup and give it to. And I'm like, George, you're fucking wasting my time. I'm gonna lose. And before I could finish my word, that was it. The fucking phone call ended. Fucking 0.00 time. Uh, hang on, because it just went. Yeah, 0.00 minutes. But I have 1,573 service days left. And I just got an ad earlier this morning for a bonus to minutes if I get a certain amount of time on a time card. Not get my paycheck till tomorrow. But yeah, Chris wants to work at the park so he can slack off. That's the main reason why, because he can just sit around wherever he wants to. Josh is usually on the opposite side of the park, miles away from him. There's nobody watching him, and he can just sit around and waste time. Like I'll weed whack half the fucking park and leave the other half for Chris because Chris is on the opposite side, so he should do that. And by the time the day's over, is like Chris has probably 30% of his side done. Sometimes like the most I've seen is he got halfway done when I got all like I had finished all mine and I told him I'm done. Like I told Josh I'm done weed whacking and he's put me on a mower to finish mowing because mowing takes a lot more time than weed whacking. You just gingerly walk at like a 3-4 mile pace, weed whacker on the fucking edge of the tree line, and if you can keep your hands steady, it's easy. That's it. You just keep walking with the whacker going, and you just weed whack the edge of the tree line, and then if there's a light post or a road sign, you weed whack around that, or a hydrant. That's it. That's all you do. And he can't do that. It's it's disgustingly bad. God damn. Ugh, kill me now. Uh, let's see. Let's okay. Let's go with some good news, because that was some bad news in my life. Now it's time for some good news in my life, and then I'm gonna go into a big fucking rant slash. It's just a full blown rant about something that's been pissing me off. So good news: Fallout New Vegas. I might do a Fallout New Vegas let's play when I get my new laptop. That'll probably be my first play series because oh boy, you guys are gonna love my character, Mad fucking Max Rockatansky. Whew. Like, I'm not like this is the best part about it. This is the best part about the character. Mad Max is an incredibly complex character. Like, there's gonna be some people who are fans of Mad Max are gonna be like, no, he isn't. Like, he's not that complex. Like, he's mixtures of gray, but so blah blah blah. So Fallout New Vegas has factions in it. Like in Fallout 3, you can join the Enclave or the Brotherhood of Steel. That's about it. To change the ending, really. Like, you get you get two main options: a good ending and a bad ending. That's it. Like, you poison the purification, like Project Purity device, or you go in and sacrifice yourself. That's it. New Vegas, though, there's multiple factions and there's multiple endings. There's I believe it's four major endings from what I remember. You can join the NCR, you can join Caesar's or Kaiser's Legion, join Mr. House, or do your own thing and make the Mojave Wasteland independent or make New Vegas independent. So that makes four endings, but then it adds more depth to it in that certain choices you make throughout the story affect the factions, like all the factions, the powder gangers, the fucking the Brotherhood of Steel, the NCR, Kaiser's Legion, New Vegas in general, the whole shebang. There's a lot of factions. So I'm going to have my audience do polls. I'm going to make a poll for the factions, like how the story will play out, and have them choose how Max will. Because how far am I in the game? I'm I'm at Novak. Yeah, but I've cleared out some a super mutant camp on Black Mountain. Uh, I've talked to the NCR, the really any quests and any other quests I can think of that'll make me idolized in Good Springs. Like maybe gasoline, maybe gasoline, get his fucking interceptor so I can drive around as the road warrior. Maybe introduce dog meat because I think there's a dog meat mod, so we don't have to have one of the cyber dogs. Okay, there we go. Can you hear me fully now? Okay. Basically, what I was saying was Mad Max has a lot of nuance to him, and so if I do polls for how Mad Max should respond to certain like certain quest lines and stuff, because I'm gonna just record it and make them episodes, like normal episodes, and so I'll probably do polls on Twitter or Facebook or something, or just do a polls on certain sites, and I'll be like, uh, how should like and I'll do it before I do the series. Like certain things. Like how would Max respond to the Brotherhood of Steel? How would Max respond to the NCR? Kaiser's Legion, Mr. House. Like how would Max operate when dealing with raiders? Would he like outright attack raiders because of what they do, or would he just completely avoid them? Like, would he help the towns of Good Springs or Prim? Would he like? There's just so many fucking things because every town you interact with has like everything you interact with on some level has consequences. Like if you wipe out the whole fucking chain of command and the powder gangers, at the end of the game, it literally states like, well, since you killed all the fucking leaders and you wiped out most of the faction, like they just disperse. But if you don't kill the leader, like he fucks off to somewhere else and the powder gangers form up again. Or if you just don't avoid them, like the powder gangers just continue to heckle trade caravans. Like if you help Good Springs will either thrive, fucking become a ghost town, get completely wiped out by Kaiser's Legion, so on and so forth. Like a lot of nuance. And so I'd probably just poll like what should I do and how should I role play the character before I do it. And so I'd probably add a couple more Mad Max esque mods like gasoline or oil, probably gasoline. Try and get his interceptor that he uses in Road Warrior and the first Mad Max, and like the first 2 minutes of Fury Road. Uh, have him drive around. I'd be able to drive around, which wouldn't really be as awesome because now that I've been playing New Vegas again after years of not playing it, it is small. Like a lot of the area that I've explored is incredibly fucking small. Like it took me, I don't know, 3 minutes tops to run from Good Springs to Prim. Maybe 5 minutes to run from Prim to Novak, and another five to run from Novak to not Novak, Nipton, and then run from Nipton to Novak in 5 minutes. Like the reason why it felt so long was because maybe once or twice some enemies came out of the area, like giant fire ants or fucking gang raiders, that sort of shit. Uh, Also fought my first death claw in the game, and the lovely old Bethesda glitches started happening, which was funny. Uh, its head, its head and left arm froze, like where they were standing when I first shot at it, because I was like, "Fuck this! I'm gonna shoot it first and try and score a sneak critical hit on it." And so when I hit it in the head and the left arm, both of those stayed, but the body kept charging at me. And so its character model for the head and the neck area stretched out and its arms stretched out. And so it's running around and like the fucking character models for where the head and the fucking arm are supposed to be are moving with it. It was just weird. I should have screen capped it because it was just that fucking bizarre. But for some reason it couldn't attack me because of it, because I guess I glitched it out, and so I just killed it and I took its hand. Like, eh. Oh, also another thing, skills and perks. Like after leveling, I probably like end episodes or try and get episodes uh to work around leveling up. So at the end of it, I'd be like, comment down below like what perk you think would Mad Max have, and like what skills, like where should the points be allocated. Also, like what would be his main stats, like his specials and the main three skills he has. Um, One of them would have to be guns, obviously. But then like when I was making him like this test build, I was like, well, Max is good at repairing things. Like he does maintain the interceptor and he does maintain a lot of things around him. Uh but then like that leaves one more, and sadly New Vegas decided, fuck having small and long guns, which would add nuance to it. We'll just make everything guns. So I might get a skill overhaul mod and like make it more difficult. Also, probably gonna make it a hardcore game mode when I do the playthrough, because I needs those achievements. Let's see. God damn. Okay, one of these bottle caps is for this soda. The other one's for that one. I got fucking bottle caps everywhere. Hey. Also, I have an insane amount of aim. Like, I don't know why. Uh, the difficulty for New Vegas that I'm playing in is the one before the highest difficulty. I think it's very hard as the highest. I'm on hard difficulty. I'm not in hardcore mode, so hardcore mode would probably make it a lot more convenient and a lot more strategic, tactical. Uh, I have too much ammunition. Like, it is insane how much ammunition I have for guns that I have no use for. I have a cowboy repeater, a varmint rifle, uh, a service rifle I got from the NCR. I have dynamite, long fuse dynamite. I have frag grenades. I have two plasma grenades, a bunch of frag mines that I found that I disarmed, powder charges I disarmed. I have the weathered 10 millimeter pistol from the classic pack, cosmetic pack. I have the mercenaries grenade rifle from the mercenary cosmetic pack. I sold the caravan shotgun because I didn't need that because the guy in Good Springs was selling a sawn-off. So I bought that, and then I traded it for the caravan shotgun. So I have plenty of. I have. Here's the insane thing. I have in Fallout 3 because I remember this. It was insanely hard to find 308 rounds for the sniper rifle. I am swimming neck deep in 308 rounds, 4570 government 9mm. I sold all my 9mm. Uh, I had so many 9mm rounds. I actually unlocked the achievement or challenge for selling 10,000 items, and the previous one was like 500 that I had. I think that was it. Like sell 500 items. Selling all of them capped me out at the 10,000 max, like the highest for that challenge or achievement. Like the craft station, the reloading station. I dismantled all of the 20 gauge rounds I had found and the 5mm. And I think, oh God, it wasn't 10 mil. I think I disassembled 3/4 of the 10mm rounds that I had, and that maxed out the crafting station for like the reloading station stuff. Like the one round that I am short on supply all the time is 12 gauge. That's it. That's the only fucking round that I am always trying to find. Like, I have been trying so fucking hard to find 12 gauge rounds. Whenever I go to a merchant, I'm always like, please have 12 gauge rounds. And they'll only have like 3 or 4 in stock. But they'll have like 100 some odd 5.56. Or they'll have 30 or 40 308. And I'm like, I don't fucking need that. I don't need that. I need 12 gauge. I need 12 gauge stat now. Like, that's my main gun. I used the varmint rifle to snipe because I found somebody selling a fucking night scope for it. Uh, the fucking Good Springs was selling a silencer for it. I had that, and then there was a wandering merchant near the NCR outpost south of Prim that was selling the extended mags. So that gun's completely modded. So I use that to snipe, and then I usually use that outside. But if it comes into close quarters combat, or if I'm like sweeping through an area inside of a building, sawn off shotgun. And so I've been spending most of my time in reload stations trying to make 12 gauge slugs. So I have 12 gauge coin slugs because I've been killing legionnaires. I have solid buck. I have slugs. I think it's double buck is the other fucking one. But they don't have normal 12 gauge. That's the other thing. You can make normal 20 gauge in the game at a reloading station, but you can't make normal 12 gauge. I'm like, wait, what? Also, the game doesn't really, because I've always heard and I've always said, like, one of the biggest things is they dropped the ball on shotguns in New Vegas. Not as bad as I remember. It's bad in VATS. Like, I've one of the biggest examples was in Prim when you go to the hotel to save the deputy. I was point blank. Like, I even took out a 10mm pistol to fucking show this, uh, to prove this to myself. My 10mm pistol had like an 89% chance of hitting the torso of this raider, of the powder ganger that was holding up in Prim, like right next to the deputy. 89% chance to hit him with a 10mm. And he had his back turned to me, and I was sneaking, and I was hidden. I then took out my sawn off, and I go into VATS. It's a 22% chance at the same distance. And so I'm like, how? I am point blank, like probably 5 feet away from the dude. There is no way I should be able to miss. There should be no way that that is now a 22% chance to hit when my 9mm is an 89. Like, it's insane. And then there's been times where tell me like 80 some odd percent or a 79% chance, and I'll use two two turns in VATS to fire, and both of them will miss. Like a 75% chance to hit a torso, and I'll go for the solid mass, and it will just miss both shots. And you'll see the raider with a fucking baseball bat running up to me, and there's been times where the gun has gone off point blank, like his character's head is inside the barrel while he's swinging at me, and it's like, you've missed. And it's like, how the fuck did I miss? His head was inside the gun barrel, for God's sakes. Well, that's the insane thing, Sten. Right now in the game, because I've been fucking I think I'm level 11 or 12 now. I have dumped most of my my skill points into guns. My gun skill is 85 because I think I get 19 skill points with my intelligence, and then I took the perk that gives you 2 or 3 extra skill points per level up, and I also took the perk that gives you I think it's double the skill points for reading a skill book, and I found one of the skill books while searching out some ruins, and so I have like an 85. I'm almost maxed out in guns, and it still does that, and it's just the sawn-off shotgun. Like if I use the varmint rifle or any other gun, if I like the grenade launcher has a higher chance to hit something. Like all the other guns in my inventory will hit something except for the shotgun. The shotgun always fucks up in VATS. But if I'm doing it like FPS style, like just looking down the fucking barrel of the gun and firing, I have a higher chance of hitting something, and there are vastly more chances of me critically crippling something, like it's like a raider's leg, or fucking just jibbing their heads. Like, it is insane. That's how they broke shotguns. Shotguns are useless in VATS. And the other and this is a problem I hate with just Bethesda games in general. How combat happens in Skyrim, in Elder Scrolls, in not even Morrowind has this problem. Morrowind is actually one that actually seems logical when it comes to combat. But Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout 3, and New Vegas. I haven't played Fallout 4 yet, so I don't know. But in those 4 games, when you come into combat, the enemy is moving constantly. And it just makes it a overly drawn out conflict. Especially in a game where the majority of weapons are ranged firearms. Like, the enemy will be walking sideways, strafing, and they'll be able to hit you. But no matter where you are, like if you're running, they're more often than not, they're going to hit you. Unless if you crouch under cover. But if you, like, I've popped out of cover and I've aimed my rifle and I've tried to fire at them, and they just jolt back down or crouch or move out of the way, and they're constantly zigzagging everywhere. That's why VATS is so, that's why VATS is so fucking, like it's so integral to the game. You need VATS to hit something. Because if you try firing at it at real time, you're going to miss 95% of the time. It's why I like shotguns in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, because they have spread. Like in New Vegas, a 12 gauge fire is a 7 7 projectiles. So you have fucking 7 projectiles just spread out everywhere. So if I'm fucking 5 feet away from somebody and they keep zigzagging around back and forth, just firing at me, like if I fire in their general vicinity, I'm either hitting their left side or their right side, depending on how I've aimed it. Same goes with Skyrim and Oblivion. It's it's why I love being a sneaky archer. It's why I love it, because I can just sit there perched up, snipe them all out, and kill them. I don't have to deal with them zigzagging back and forth. Like pulling out a sword, melee combat is broken in the game. Like most of the combat is designed to just be a barbarian. Most of the enemies you fight are just straight melee combat. And so usually you're just going to run in with a sword and shield or a fucking two-handed axe and hack at things. But the problem is when you charge in and you swing your fucking sword, 9 times out of 10, I've done that. They just jump out of the way. Or because the characters are like, it's just Bethesda's game engine, my character has pushed between 2 enemies and then did his power attack. Completely over swinging my attack. Okay, Fallout 4 is just like the others. God damn. Like, I've seen a few playthroughs of Fallout 4 and a few playthroughs of Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas, and all of them use VATS. All of them use VATS, and all of them, because it's just like that game needs VATS. Like, it's a role playing game. But the biggest thing, and I think this is the problem, their game engine is not a first person shooter engine. That's what I think. Because when I play Call of Duty and I play Battlefield or Battlefront or an actual honest to God first person shooter game, the enemies don't act like that. They don't have jerky animations where they zigzag rapidly at like a split second. You can play a first person game without like the first person shooters without that, and you will survive. Like the only times I would die is if I went into an artillery strike or a rogue grenade came out and I didn't notice the grenade fucking logo, or if I went outside of the fucking map and the time started ticking down and then I died. That's the only way I would die. Or if I did something stupid like jump into an area with like 30 dudes. That's the only way I'm going to get killed in one of those games. And the game is designed so that you're looking down iron sights and you're hip firing. Fallout, like, you can't do that. You can't do that in a Fallout game, and you can't do that in an Elder Scrolls game. And there's a lot of games I've played where you're first person and you can fight with a sword and shit, like Chivalry. Chivalry had that. What was another game that I played like that? Oh Christ, I'm trying to think. Oh, I can't remember another game like that where it's first person. Think. Oh Christ, what was it? Jedi Outcast or Jedi Academy? Think that's one you can do first person? Even third person is hard in fucking both games. Well, uh, both series, I should say. Like, it's just overly difficult, and I just think it's Bethesda and their engine and their programming. Like, I will give this to Fallout 4. It's more of a first person shooter than the other two. Like, everything is more fluid, at least. Character motions and animations, and reaction times are more in line with a first person shooter game than a Fallout role playing game. New Vegas, though, and Fallout 3 especially, they're just really clunky with combat. That's probably the worst. That's probably the worst thing about the games is combat. And that goes to Skyrim too. Because I was talking to Josh about it yesterday at work. I'm like, the biggest thing I fucking hate is just combat. And so I told him, like, when you're fighting a giant or a bear or a dragon or gargoyles, like when you're fighting something big in Skyrim or fighting something big in Oblivion, it's easy. The combat is enjoyable. Not because, hey, I'm fighting a big giant monster, but because you're fighting a target that you can hit effectively and it has a broad enough range that you can hit it. In melee combat, like, it's not running around zigzagging. It does its own thing. It has its own calls or tells. It has its own methodical patterns. It's like an old NES game. Like, they have gives and tells. Like, when something's going to attack because it does this certain animation or it does this kind of move, and so you have to dodge it. Like, Dark Souls has that. Like, in Dark Souls, like, when you see some character fucking winding back their sword, it means, okay, I have to dodge this way. And then you dodge that way, and then you can fucking start hitting him again. Most of the big fucking animals and monsters you fight in Skyrim and Oblivion have that sort of tell. Like, you know what they're doing, and you fought enough of them, or you fought so many of them, so you know how the combat's gonna go. But with bandits, like mainly bandits, like that's what like where bandits and most humanoid creatures are, like the Droger, like that's where the problems of the game start to fucking really show in combat. Like, you'll have archers sitting in the back, zigzagging back and forth, firing, maybe a mage, and they'll be going around bagging fireballs at you, and then maybe 3, 4 bandits will run up with either swords. Six are bashing at you, and then you get and once that one that you attacked is dead, then you just keep whittling down that one and rinse and repeat. And then when it's time to, like, I've gotten into fucking shootouts with archers. I just jumped like 5 frames to the left or the right, and I've avoided your projectile. But they'll hit, but you could move. Like, there's been times where I've sprinted around them. Like, I've sprinted out of their range when, like, I've seen them about to fire, and okay. For some reason, and I don't know why, Google Hangouts was muting me because I kept getting the mute icon on the bottom right, and I wasn't muting myself. So hopefully you can hear me fully. Okay. That probably would explain why I kept going in and out. But yeah, like with combat in Skyrim mainly, because I it's been years since I've played Oblivion. But in Skyrim, I'll be sprinting, like I'll do rolls when I'm crouched, and I'll still get hit. No matter what I do. Like at least one archer's arrow will hit me. And the game runs smoothly. Like usually plus or minus 5 around 50 FPS with all the mods and and my graphics scaled up. Like I'm getting around 50 FPS for that game. And with Fallout New Vegas, I've got around 50, maybe higher than 50 FPS. And I'll do the same thing in New Vegas. I'll be ducking and bobbing and weaving, crouching, trying to avoid gunfire because I'm in that first person shooter mentality of I'm in a firefight. I need to crouch behind concrete or some kind of debris to give myself cover. And then when I pop my head out with my shotgun and I'm looking around, the enemy will just immediately pop out, hit me, and then duck as I'm fucking clicking to fire the slugs. And I've missed them, but they've been able to hit me because they just popped out. So it's just cheap. It's just really cheap. It's one of the biggest gripes I have with the game. I'm also contemplating on whether or not I should get power armor. I'm thinking of just skipping the power armor, even though I would like that T-51B armor. I do, like, yeah, that's my that's something. Let me bring up that point. There's a few points. There's a few points they've been rattling in my head. Number one, why why is a T-51B considered by fans the coolest of the power armors? I think it's the T-41. That's the one that was introduced in Fallout 3. Like I think that one's vastly more interesting to look at and cooler in design than the T-51B. Like the iconic Fallout 1 and 2 power armor. Like I feel like the power armor that Bethesda introduced in Fallout 3 is vastly more cool looking and more feasible. Like it looks like something you would see, like it looks like power armor. The T-51B looks like a costume to me. Like the helmet just looks too weird. Well, that's the thing. Like the T-51B is the standard power armor in Fallout 1 and 2. Like cuz that one's in like all the newsreels in Fallout 1 and well in Fallout 1. I don't think they show it in Fallout 2, but like you see two soldiers in T-51B gunning down Canadian descent. Uh it's on the cover art. You see a tribal dude wearing it in Fallout 2. Like you find two or three T-51B suits in Fallout 3, counting. Yeah, it's the T-52. Plus the armor from Fallout 4 that you get. That's a prototype. Like the T-50, like in the T-51B, I don't know. It's just the shoulder pads look weird. The whole suit looks too bulky. Like you look pudgy in it. Like it's just an unappealing suit of armor to me. But like the T-50, the T-41 or whatever it is, like I don't know, like the shoulder pads look cool. Like the just the armor in general looks more appealing to the eye, and it looks more practical. Like the T-51B is like chrome and shiny in like Fallout 1 and 2. Like in 3 and 4 it looks meh. Like the visor looks weird. Like the whole thing looks weird. Yeah, T-1000 model. Ugh. No thanks. I'm all set with that. Like I'm okay. Like it was good enough back when the movie came out for T2, but just ugh. But to answer your question, I'm not sure if Max would use it. Like Mad Max, like that's the problem with trying to make to have Mad Max set in Fallout. Like it really isn't super mutants, and well, Master Blaster might be a mutant in Thunderdome. I'm trying to think if there are mutants in Thunderdome. Like you could possibly say Lord Humongous from Road Warrior might be a mutant with the way he looks, because like his head's all fucking misshapen and shit, and he wears a hockey mask to cover it up, and his voice sounds deep. Like, but not really mutants, nor ghouls, nor radioactive monsters and shit, and like mutated animals. Like the only animal we see, well, animals we see in Road Warrior are snakes, and maybe two snakes that the gyrocopter pilot has, because he uses them as like weapons. He has like a bag filled with snakes, and he drops them onto fucking drivers because he has the only flying machine in the franchise. Um, Dog meat, or just the dog that fucking Max has in the first two movies, which dog meat is based off of, um, and birds like vultures and crows and shit, and that's about it. Like it's just raiders, and that's it. Like that's Mad Max. And the big threat really is they have all kinds of hodgepodge weapons and like dangerous looking modified vehicles. Hell, Road Warrior has most of them using crossbows and makeshift weapons because ammunition's gone. Like Lord Humongous has a scoped 357 Magnum revolver in a case, and he has like 12 bullets that he has, and you can see that there's some bullets missing. And when Max is bringing one of the fucking God, what a great fucking movie scene too, because it shows so much nuance that and subtlety that not a lot of people really pick up on. But when Max is driving the tanker truck into the camp where the survivors are, like you see Lord Humongous open up the case and he grabs the gun, and then you see him hesitate as he picks up a bullet because he knows like that's all he has. Like sure, he might be able to hit Max and kill him, but if he doesn't, that's one less bullet he has to defend himself. And like throughout the entire movie, Max has literally got one shotgun shell in his sawn off. And there's times where he checks, like, and he's scrounging around. And there's times where you see him hesitate when he pulls out his shotgun or reaches for it because he knows, like, once that's gone, I have nothing else to defend myself with. And there's times where he's like, no, like, this is a life and death situation, but I cannot use my gun. And so when it's time to break out of the refugee camp, like the fort they've built, and he's going to be driving the tanker out. When you see them give him like 4 shotgun shells, you're like, yes, Max gets to use his gun finally. And the movie's like, it feels like 2 hours long. I think it's 2 hours long. It's been like an hour. If it is a 2 hour long movie, like an hour and a half has gone by, and Max has not used his gun. So in the final half hour of that movie, which is just all chase scene, We get to see Max use the gun, and when he finally does, it is just glorious. Like, the fucking Raiders have like a hook. They throw it on the fucking driver's side window and they yank the door off so Max is exposed. He's got the little tribal fucking wild boy with him. Like, he gets a claw slammed into his shoulder while he's trying to load his shotgun. Knocks all the shotgun shells everywhere. There's some on the front hood because the window got smashed out. Some on the ground, like some of them fall out of the truck. The little tribal boy climbs onto the hood of a moving tanker with raiders firing crossbow bolts everywhere. And he tries to grab that one shotgun shell so that Max can use it to defend them. But before that, like Max, while he's driving, just steps out of the fucking cab and just just looks behind him to one of the cars, and that's it. Fucking pulls the trigger, completely vaporizes the driver. All the whole windshield cracks, blood and guts everywhere inside. The car careens off, hits one of the stuntmen who was driving a motorcycle. He goes off, like, just glorious. Such an amazing scene. Like, the whole movie was building up to that moment because Max, like, oh God, what a great movie. I love Road Warrior. Such a beautiful movie. It's a shame they'll never do something as awesome as that movie again. And yes, I'm counting Fury Road in that. I'm not a big fan of Fury Road. Shock, I know. Just Fury Road was just meh to me. No, that's right. My fucking dog tag's broke. I could probably fix it. I just gotta find my other dog tag chain because I have a lot of them from some of my surplus gear. It's like little fucking it's things to hold the tags and price tags and shit. But yeah, I could probably fix it. Just take one of the fucking locking mechanisms and just snap it on right there. Ugh. So then it'll be a fucking double hodgepodge of two locking mechanisms on the same chain because I don't want to fucking waste money just buying a new chain and ordering it. Then again, I do have to order new silencers because these ones are finally falling apart after 2 years. Welcome back, Sten. Oh, wow, yeah, we gotta clean that up. Uh, how's the weather in your neck of the woods, by the way, Sten? There we go. Clean that up. Oh boy, these dog tags are filthy. Ah, so really shit rain. Yeah. There we go. Just started to rain again. Ugh. I went out just to grab something to drink this morning. Well, probably probably about an hour or so before I started streaming. Because I woke up and I was like, fuck it. I'm thirsty. Probably from my end, Jen. Probably the weather's the thing that's fucking up my internet connection. I gotta turn these silencers inside out so I can try and clean them. If I even can. Oh wow, it snowed in Maine. I know I it was a sleet. It was sleet. I think it was Tuesday night into Tuesday morning. I think that was the day, or it might have been. I forgot what it was this week. I know that it was light snow mixed with rain around here, and that was technically the first snowfall of the season. And I know there's going to be some people that are going to fucking argue with me about that around here in Mass, where they're like, no, snowfall is snow, like straight snow. But it's like, it was cold enough for snow to form and fall while it was raining. I consider that the first snowfall of the season, which is actually the earliest it's been in my record, like that I can remember. I don't remember it snowing this early in November. Like for a long time. Like my father has told me many a story where he's like, "Yeah, it used to snow in like late October around here when I was your age, back in the 70s." And it's like, wow, like the pond in my at my neighborhood, like that would be frozen over and people would be ice skating before Halloween some years. Some people would be the ice would be thick enough to drive cars onto it safely. And it's like, fuck. Yeah, 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 7 years ago. Jeez. Like, again, it's been a while. Like, to the point where I have to literally sit and think about the last time we had an early snowstorm. Like, last year, it hardly snowed. Like, it hardly snowed. And when it did snow, it was, I'd say late January, early February was when it was snowing. It didn't snow in December. I know that. Like if it did, it melted away. Um, I know in 20, I think 2014. Yeah, 2014, early 2014, like January, we had a nice blizzard. It was a really big one. That was a good fucking year for snow. I also think that was the year where we may have we came close to be the record snowfall in New England history or Massachusetts history. Pretty bad. Yeah. Thanks, global warming. I can't enjoy the frozen tundra of the north anymore because of you. If your global warming wasn't happening, we would have beaten snowfall records a few years back. We were like at 100 inches for the winter. I think we were like 4 inches shy of, or like it was such bullshit. It was like a half inch to an inch shy of beating the record. Like the snowstorm that was supposed to hit us, they were like, if it snows just an inch or more, we'll beat the record for the amount of snowfall in a winter here in Massachusetts. And then it fucking snowed and only like a quarter inch fell. And it's like, you bitch. So like a couple of years back is like the second most we've had in record. And that'll probably be the last time we ever get that much snow in my generation. Oh wow, Jen. Happy 70th belated birthday. Christ. I forgot what year I was born. I think it was 19. Let's see. I was shipped out to Vietnam in 67. Oh, yeah. I was born in 1949. I was I was just going to turn 18 in December of 1967. Just got my first car. Fucking so much good music was coming out the time. I remember listening to Jimi Hendrix and the Doors on the radio. Had my whole life ahead of me. And then I got enlisted into the army. And that was it. I came back a monster. Oh, hush. Is that because I'm telling the audience and the listener that I'm a Vietnam veteran? Or is that oh hush Darth for me saying happy belated 70th birthday? For the last time. For the last time what? You were not alive during those years. Yes. Yes, I was. Yes, I was, Jen. You can claim that I wasn't, but I was. All right, how about this? How about this, Jen? Since I wasn't alive at those times, did you know that I was sitting I was sitting on base camp listening to the St. Louis Cardinals win the 1967 World Series? Yeah, they fought against the Boston Red Sox in '67. I remember it. I remember it. It was a 4-3. Yeah, and you're 70 years old, Jen. As you said, as it was 70 last Christmas for me. I mean, little bit of typos here and there. So, I mean, the last 70 Christmases for you, I understand. Like, it hasn't really snowed that much. So, you were born in what? 1947. So you're a year older than me. You're yeah. No, 2 years older than me because I was born in '49. I was 18 when I got well 17 technically when I got shipped out in '67. Yep. Why do you think I like a lot of songs and a lot of bands from the late '50s, the throughout the '60s, and throughout the '70s? It's because my service tour. One of these days, I'm going to go up there and smack you upside the head. How, because I'm telling you common sense that you and I would know in our mid to late '70s. Like you don't remember the World Series. You don't know who won the World Series. That's that's an un-American thing. You're good. It's a good thing McCarthyism stopped. Yeah, it's a good thing McCarthyism stopped. Or we might consider you a commie. Oh boy. Apparently, I just got a notification for today's press briefing for the White House. Ugh. Lovely. Just lovely. Oh, the trolling. You can say it was trolling, Sten, but I was there. I was there from 67 to 70. It was awful. Absolutely awful. Ugh. I'm not sure what Fat Mouth said. But I'm sure it's something awful. As always. Oh, what the hell happened earlier this week that he said he was going to. Is this the big reveal he's supposed to be doing? Because I know he said he was going to do a big reveal on some shit. Also, Jen, just to tell you a little bit more about how I am indeed as old as I say I am. I was part of the 11th Armored Cavalry Regiment, 1st Squadron, also known as Black Horse Company. And also in 1967, I was part of Operation Quicksilver. We were moving with the 101st Airborne in Bin Long and Tay Ninh province. It was a search into RIF. And then a couple days after my birthday, I was part of Operation Fargo. And we still went into Bin Long and Tay Ninh. And then there was the Tet Offensive. In fact, during Operation Fargo, that's when I got shot in my right thigh. So I was out for Operation Eddarsville. But I was part of Operation Alcorn Cove. Yep. I could still hear the screaming from the 18th and 25th Divisions. Ugh. And then we had Operation Toe Thing. Ugh, that was awful. Just awful. And then after that, I had R&R, got shipped back to the world. And then when I came back, I was smack dab placed right into MacV-SOG for my unfailing courage and determination in the field of battle. Well, shit. Hail coming into. God damn. Poor Connecticut. Also, that trench coat that I got, perfect for this weather. Like, it Okay. Can you hear me? Holy shit. That's some spoopy shit right there. Like it said video call has ended. And so I'm like, "Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Like did shit happen?" And so I refreshed, and son of a bitch, the video call has not ended because the stream is still live. Also, god damn it, Jen. I was spouting off my knowledge, my deep vid call ended. It's saying I'm still live. Oh boy. Let me skip to live. Okay, okay. Yeah. Yeah, you scared me for a second, Stan. I thought like the video just ended again. But yeah, like it said vid call ended and it booted me out, so I refreshed the stream and I'm back, surprisingly. And also, yeah, Jen, like I was spouting off my knowledge because, I lived through 1967 and you weren't even here. God damn. Maybe the video call ended because I was listing off military ranks in divisions and I was talking about Vietnam. Maybe that's a trigger warning now for YouTube. Like they end your stream if you talk about the war. That'd be pretty fucked up, YouTube, if you did that. That'd be real bad. And the thing is, I don't have any tags. The only thing I tag in my videos all the time is the title. I do it one word a piece and then the full word. So if someone's typing in like on YouTube, like they're searching for rambling or ramblings, my videos will pop up. Maybe. I haven't I haven't tested it yet. And then I put my name, like my screen name here on YouTube. So if somebody wants to see all the videos I've posted, they type me in the search bar and all my videos pop up. That's it. Like I don't put depressed or suicide or war or blood or any of those trigger tags people keep talking about for the apocalypse. Like if I'm talking about a mature content that I don't want people listening to that need to be 18 or older to listen to with a warning, I put mature content like right at the start when I make the stream. Like I'm responsible. I'm a responsible YouTuber. Nothing wrong. Also, before I get into that big rant, I'll say this. I might buy Fallout 4. And if I do buy Fallout 4 with all the DLC, I will do a lot. I will do a video series on that. I'm also going to be doing a video series for KOTOR 2, Skyrim. Uh, oh boy, what else? What else? I totally forgot. Fable. Fable: The Lost Chapters. That one's probably going to take a while because there's a lot of heavy baggage with that game. Stellaris and The Long Dark. I cannot wait to do The Long Dark. That's going to be great. It's going to be so great. But and Starbound. I might do Starbound because I have a few cool badass mods for that, and I usually play as a drifter. So I'm hoping that I hope somebody adds or they add a bounty hunter system because I'd totally be a bounty hunter in Starbound if they had that. But yeah, I'm usually a bounty hunter in Skyrim for the first like 5 hours of the game while I'm building up gold because I have a mod that makes gold more valuable, like coins. It drops the amount of what you earn. Like all the loot is vastly lowered, so things have more worth to them. So when you find like a flaming like a long sword of sparks or I don't know, a chilling long. I forget what the fucking. I know sparks is either lightning or lightning or fucking fire added to a long sword. But when you find that, like, there's gonna be a long time before you find another magical item like that. And like the average loot that you get for certain quests that are like hard built into the script, those stay. But other than that, like it makes the game harder. It's like I wouldn't even say it's a hardcore mode version like New Vegas, which they do have mods of that. I might add those again, but I'll do a hardcore mode for Skyrim too, and I'll do one for Fallout 4, and then Morrowind 3. I might do I might do Morrowind, skip Oblivion, and then do Skyrim because Morrowind's my favorite out of all three of them that I've played. Uh, then do New Vegas, then do Fallout 4. Um, skip KOTOR 1 because I don't like KOTOR 1. Do KOTOR 2. Stellaris is going to be fun as shit because I'll do an Iron Man mode of the game so I can unlock achievements and shit. But I'll be playing as the Imperium of Man, and I will be purging this. I will be purging galaxies. Also, I need to get the new expansion still. I haven't gotten that yet. That way, I can make the Necrons because you can make machine races now finally. So I'll do that, and I'll build. I don't know. I'll build weird fucking. They're probably updating the uh. Oh god, what the 40K mods I have for it. Like I'll probably have those installed. That makes the game a lot cooler. Plus the super death weapons or the super weapon mods. I'm sure somebody has a Necron mod for it. I'll check it out later. But I'm going to get something to drink and I will be right back. And back. KOTOR 2 with Krea's lessons that no one heeds. Yeah, like nobody, like I took it to heart. Like KOTOR 2 opened my eyes that the Jedi are kind of assholes. Also, need to relax. Got commentary to do tonight for the first tournament race. What game is going to be for the tournament race? That sounds interesting. Final Fantasy VI. Ooh, nice. I'll have to pop in and watch it. It'll be an RPG limit break on Twitch. All right. RPG limit break. All right. So I got that in my Google search bar, so I can just click on that. It's a race to that major battle at Narsh with Kefka. All right. Oh, okay. Time for my rant. Because this is something that's been pissing me off, and it might cause some people to groan because it's me being nerdy and overly fucking critical when it comes to Tolkien. Yes, Tolkien is coming back again in my fucking podcast for my rambling series, but it has to be said. So, the first thing, it's minor, but at the same, because I'll work my way up from the least annoying thing, and least is putting it mildly, to the big thing that apparently has come out to light that Sten linked to me. So the first thing, people praising Benedict Cumberbatch's portrayal as Smog, and that's how his name is supposed to be pronounced. People, Smog, not Smaug or any fucking variation of it. It's Smog. Tolkien wrote about its pronunciation. Tolkien stated as much that it's pronounced smog. Like, that's it. It's pronounced smog. Like, Sauron, smog. Like, the AU has its own different pronunciations depending on what the letter is that follows it. Anyways, so, like, I was watching, because, I'm a horrible fucking Tolkien fanatic. I was watching The Hobbit, the animated Hobbit, the only good Hobbit movie. And I was just enjoying it because the characters are the closest interpretation to their characters in the book. And Smog is just awesome in that version. I don't care that he looks like a cat. I don't. I don't. Tolkien didn't care. Tolkien saw that before he died, and Tolkien actually gave it his blessings and enjoyed it because it represented his book almost perfectly. It had the songs from the book in the movie. All of the nearly every single song from the book is in the movie. Like Far Over the Misty Mountains Cold is just this deep foreboding tone. Like it make it it has a looming threat to the song, but at the same time you're interested and enthralled to see what happens in the song. It makes you want to know what happened. It makes you want to help the dwarves. And I'm not poo-pooing the song in the live action movie. It's more of a somber, mournful tone to it. But the thing is, they barely fucking sing the goddamn song. Like The Hobbit is a children's story filled with songs and poems, and it's supposed to have this very fairy tale esque tone to it. It's literally what fucking Tolkien was writing about. It's a fucking fairy tale. It's for children. The Hobbit is for children. The Lord of the Rings is for adults, like black and white. And so I was watching The Hobbit, the animated version, and so I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." And then I started realizing to myself, I'm like, you know what? I'm a masochist. I kind of want to know what people's opinions are about this scene. And the fucking comment threads from nearly every single clip from the animated Hobbit movie is, "Oh, well, this isn't just this. This ain't realistic. Like Benedict Cumberbatch is far more realistic as a Smog than Boone is." And I think it's Peter Boone does the voice for Smog. And it's like, no, no. How can you say that? How can you say that Benedict Cumberbatch's portrayal of Smog is more realistic, quote unquote, and more faithful to the fucking book when he doesn't? Boone portrays that perfectly on his fucking hoard of gold, like he does in the book. And he opens up one eye and goes, "All right." And so Bilbo, and here's another thing, Bilbo at this point in the story is cocky. He too has become what's inside my pocket. But he did survive that. He escaped from the fucking goblin halls, and he was able to smuggle out all the dwarves in barrels from the Elf King's hall to Lake Town. And now he is faced toe to toe. He is basically the main focal point now for the party. Like all the dwarves rely on Bilbo, and they all apologize throughout the story for thinking that he was worthless. Like, oh boy, I cut out. Okay, now I'm back. Like the whole point of The Hobbit is Bilbo becoming a central character. Like that's his whole point. He becomes this integral member of the party. And all the dwarves realize this and they apologize for thinking less of him. And small by the time hmm, can you hear me now? And no, it's not Cumberbatch fangirls. It's not just that. Like it's It's people who don't get Tolkien. It's people who want realism in a fantasy setting. Like Smog in the animated Hobbit movie is more realistic to the narrative than the live action version. Smog nearly word for word quotes Smog's boast from the book in the animated. The only thing he doesn't mention is that he has killed warriors of old when he was young, mentioning the first stage, killed Girion of Dale, and laid waste to practically everybody that has tried to oppose him. That's the only part of the boast he does not say. Like, that's it. And his boast is just impressive. Like he just exudes this confidence, this arrogant confidence that he is untouchable. And he does it when he realizes that when Bilbo says barrel rider, he thinks that he's taught that he is one of the members of Lake Town. And then Bilbo, because he's cocky in the story, states that the reason why he's come to the Lonely Mountain is for revenge. And Bilbo even, if I remember correctly, because it's been fucking a year and a half or so since I've read the fucking Hobbit front to back, but if I remember correctly, Bilbo even fucking stays his tongue saying anything else because he realizes, oh shit, I fucked up and I said something I shouldn't have. And it's because he was confident and cocky. Like, he's listing off all these titles he's made for himself: web cutter, spider stinger, barrel rider, like the luck wearer. Uh, what else does he say he is? The one who walks unseen. Like, these are titles that are just fucking just boosting his confidence, that make him feel like he's bigger than what he actually is. And so that fucks him up. And it kind of fucks the rest of the dwarves, because Smog goes on a fucking killing spree because he thinks that Lake Town's the ones that did it. In the live action, Smog already knows where Bilbo is. Just reasons. And he just he just enunciates all these words. He barely says any of the fucking actual quotes in line with it. It's just everything with Smog is just goddamn awful. And then they're like, oh, well, Smog is more realistic as a dragon. Like, even though a dragon can mean anything. Like, dragons come in all different shapes and forms. There's dragons the size of house cats with 2 legs and wings, with a fucking with a pointy tail. And they breathe fire and they have horns. There are dragons in mythology that have unicorn horns and they have no wings and 4 legs. You have Asian dragons, which can have like 1 arm on the top of their back, or just 2 arms in the front and the rest of them is serpentine. Like, multiple variants of a dragon. Like, seeing Smog with cat ears and hair on his back does not ruin him as a dragon for me. Like, it doesn't. He's slow, he's lumbering, he's fucking boastful. He looks intimidating. He actually backs, like, his abilities and prowess back up like his boast. He lays waste to Lake Town. Like, Smog, like, and like the other thing that people were saying was like Benedict Cumberbatch did the motion capture and he just brought the character to life. It's like, no, no, he did not. Like, the character, they're like, oh, like Benedict Cumberbatch played off of his animalistic instincts and his sly nature a lot better than Peter Boone did in the animated. It's like, no, no, he didn't. Smog is not sly at all in the fucking Hobbit. Smog is a fucking arrogant, boastful prick. He knows he can kill Bilbo. He knows where the fuck he is. He can feel his air and he can smell him. He can't see him, but he knows he's in the room with him. Like the only thing that is giving Bilbo advantage over Smog is that his voice is echoing in the massive chamber they're in, and he's got a ring that makes him invisible. That's it. If he didn't have that, Bilbo would have been killed on sight. Like, like what makes him so fucking sly? Why does he need to? Why does Benedict Cumberbatch have to pretty much whisper half of his lines as if Smog is a snake? He's not. He's one of the he is practically the last dragon in Middle Earth. He has laid waste to two kingdoms, Dale and the Lonely Mountain. He has pushed back the dwarves to the point that they have been just outright sacked and fled to the all corners of Middle Earth. Lake Town cowers in fear from just the shadow of the mountain. The reason they call it the desolation of Smog is because he has laid waste to everything in the vicinity of the Lonely Mountain. There are no trees. There is no brush, no wildlife. He has laid waste to it. There's nothing stopping him. The only thing that stops him in the book is the fucking black arrow and the fact that he has one small scale missing on his left breast. That is it. Why does he need to be this sly, methodical manipulator? What makes that so, why do you need that? Why is Bilbo cowering in fear when he has fought goblins, fought trolls, dealt with giant spiders, saved his friends, and he's dealt with all manner of beasties and life and death situations up to this point? Why does he not have confidence? He's wearing the fucking one ring. Why does Bilbo take the one ring off? Why would he do that? Why would you give away your position? Like, ugh. How is it realistic? Like, why is Smog fucking like him going around, fucking running around everywhere while he's talking to Bilbo? Like, they don't even do the fucking actual. They don't do the scene justice, anyways. How is that realistic? How? How is it? That is stupid. Like, it's just mind-boggling. Like, it's just mind-boggling how people can go, "Oh, this is vastly superior to the animated movie." Like, it's not. The animated Hobbit movie is more faithful to the fucking book. It just is. By its very fucking being is more fucking in line with the book. There's no bunny sled. Radagast the Brown isn't in it. We don't have stupid scenes of Sauron bitching about how Radagast the Brown is a fan of eating shrooms and getting high on pipe weed. We don't have fucking Gandalf fighting Sauron. We don't have Elrond sword fighting with Nazgul. We don't have fucking Azog. He's supposed to be dead. In fact, he's mentioned at the beginning of The Hobbit being killed. Like, the Necromancer is mentioned twice because they're talking about how should we go through Mirkwood, and they say we should avoid this region because that's where the Necromancer claims his domain, and it's just bad times all around. We'll avoid that. That's it. Werewolves, they're mentioned because Bilbo's like, oh god, I've heard fairy tales when I was a child about werewolves that lived in the east. That's it. That's the only mention of them. Nope, in the live action, they're canon. They're just a lot. They're just live. They're just things, and they don't do anything in the battle. They just dig holes in the ground. We have trolls with giant morning stars for feet, with rocks on their head as helmets, and they have giant hook hands. Like, all four of their limbs have been amputated, and they have trebuchets on their backs because that's realistic. We have a realistic scene in the first Hobbit movie where we have all the dwarves on a fucking rickety wooden bridge fall 500 feet down a cavern, a cave chasm, and it just the fucking bridge just survives, and then it comes toppling down another 500 feet, and they're all alive, and then a 500-pound fucking fat ass Goblin King lands on them. None of them get broken bones. Nothing. None of them come in. None of them are injured until the final fight in the third movie. Sorry, one of them gets stabbed with a Nazgul blade. And that's Feely. I think it's Feely or it's Keely. I can't remember. Like, neither of them have really any character. The one that gets stabbed by the Nazgul blade is in love with Toriel the elf. And the only reason why I know her name is because she's the only female elf character we actually have any interaction with. And it's like, okay, it's Keely. Like, he's the only one that gets injured in the second movie. None of them get injured in the first movie. None of them get injured in the second movie, save for Keely. And then in the final movie, Keely gets better. And then all of them fight in the final battle. And spoilers to a book that came out in 1937, fucking Feely and Keely die, and Thorin dies. Like, those are the casualties out of a party of 14. Out of a group of 14 characters, 3 of them die. Like, whew. Again, the animated movie is more faithful to the story because Bilbo gets knocked out. Bilbo misses the entire battle in the book. He gets hit in the head with a rock, gets knocked out, wakes up, and he's greeted by, you know, one of the surviving members of the company, and he is then filled in as to what happened. And if I remember correctly, in the book and in the animated movie, a vast majority of the characters are fucking killed. Like, granted, Bjorn isn't shown in the animated movie. Uh, what else? They skip Bjorn. I know that in the animated movie. They skip the Master of Lake Town plot because it's not it. The Master of Lake Town doesn't really play a big plot in the grand scheme of the story. He steals gold. He doesn't like Thorin or Bard, and that's it. He's just greedy, and he dies. Just he just starves to death in the story. He starves to death with a fucking with like chest upon chest of gold next to him. Like, the only thing that the story actually adds nuance to or adds depth to is Lake Town. The lake that Lake Town is set in, it becomes acidic because of Smaug's remains. Like, they skip over Dane the second becoming king in both the live action movie and the animated movie. The live action movie's extended edition puts that back in. Like, the theatrical movie does not end with it. It ends right after the battle with Bilbo just leaving. They don't show him, like, they don't show the coronation of Dane. They don't show the burial of the Arkenstone and Orcust with Thorin in the foot of the mountains. Like, none of that. It just ends, like, it fades to black after the battle's over, and then Bilbo is packed up and leaving. And then he goes home. Like, they don't even, like, even the live action movie doesn't show you that Bard becomes king of Dale because he's of the line of Gideon. They don't. Like, it does in the fucking if I remember correctly in the animated movie, like, he states, like, Bard, the voice, just Bard himself states that he is heir to Gideon's throne of Dale. Like, they don't really state that he becomes king, but it's more of a fucking faithful adaptation than the fucking live action movie. It's an actual black arrow in the fucking animated than it is the live action. It's not a ballista bolt. But yeah, it's just ugh. That was my least rambly thing. That was the smallest part. That was the smallest part now. People fucking trying to say that the animated movie is subpar to the live action. Now here comes the biggest one. Here comes the big meat and potatoes of the fucking course. Amazon has the rights to the Lord of the Rings TV show. And they're probably going to be doing the fucking Silmarillion. Just goddamn. God damn it. They are doing a prequel series to The Lord of the Rings. Gonna be awful. It's gonna be awful. There doesn't need to be a prequel series. There doesn't. You want to know what the prequel is? The Hobbit. That's the prequel. Because The Hobbit takes place like 60 years before the fucking Lord of the Rings does. And it sets everything up. The One Ring getting found, like the fucking Bilbo Baggins and the Hobbits. Gandalf is fleshed out. You get information about elves and dwarves and men and hobbits, and you have a fairly good representation of what other creatures live in Middle Earth: trolls, goblins slash orcs, wargs, giant bats, Bjorn, the skin changing fucking people, uh, giant spiders, shit like that. The common things you'll be coming across in Middle Earth are established in The Hobbit. Like common fucking sense. And the story picks up right after that. But what's this? Oh, that's right. The fucking we need to make a prequel series, a multi-season series set in Middle Earth. Like we got to. And you want to know why? Because of Game of Thrones. They're gonna make a Game of Thrones version. And they're gonna be doing it exploring, quote, new storylines preceding the Fellowship of the Ring. That is stupid. And the dumbest thing is they're trying to say, "Oh well, we have some exceptional ideas for previously unexplored stories based on Tolkien's writings." The only the only writings of Tolkien's that haven't been explored are the stories set in the First Age, like 6,000 years before Lord of the Rings in The Hobbit. That's it. That's it. And it's like, really? God. Like, it's just gonna be awful. Like the thing is, Amazon has made a deal with the Tolkien estate. And I'm gonna call bullshit on the Tolkien estate for this because they have stated time and time again that they would not sell the rights to the Silmarillion or anything. Because when it came to the Lord of the Rings movies, Jackson only had the rights to the Lord of the Rings. That's it. So he had Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King, but he also had like the 200 pages of the appendix or the appendices and the Hobbit itself to work on. So he couldn't really, like during the Council of Elrond scenes, he couldn't mention Calagon the Black from the First Age. He couldn't mention Turin Rumbar. He couldn't mention Beren and Luthien totally. Um, like he couldn't mention a lot of things that are mentioned in the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit, like Gondolin and all the first stage stuff, because that was not in the rights that were sold for the movies. With Amazon, they have access to more of Tolkien's works. And so they have access to the Silmarillion. Here's the problem. The Silmarillion is unfilmable. It just is. You can't do half the fucking stories. You just can't. You can't. You can't. Like, how are you going to do it? How? You can't. Oh my god. Like, it's common sense. Like, nobody but the most diehard Tolkien fans are going to be able to sit down and not only enjoy but understand what the fuck is going on. The amount of exposition that is going to have to be dumped onto the fucking viewer's lap while watching some of the sections of the Silmarillion is mind-boggling. Just mind-boggling. God, just fucking awful, man. Just straight fucking awful. So, down the Silmarillion and show you the sections of it that are unfilmable and what I consider in their own right are going to be nigh impossible to fully represent without having like a half hour exposition before he finished writing it. And even his son Christopher, with the help of I think it's one of his father's best friends or one of the scholars who was very close friends with Tolkien, like even with that, they weren't able to fully fucking finalize it. It's still an incomplete book, but they published what was finished and what was pseudo finished. So, all right. The Anu Lindale. That's literally that's Quenya for the music of the Ainur. It's the first chapter. It is the first major part of the Silmarillion. It's literally the story of creation. Unfilmable. It is absolutely unfilmable because it is going to cause so much confusion for the audience, and there's going to have to be so much exposition. It's all going. It has to be narrated, and this is and I'll give you the synopsis. Eru Iluvatar, aka God, creates the Ainur, which are angelic beings, and he introduces a theme for them to create the universe, Ea. And so the first theme is made, and Melkor, who is one of the gods, who is essentially Lucifer, he's the greatest of the Ainur, decides, I'm going to introduce my own themes. And the themes are music. They are blind and deaf. They are deaf, dumb, and blind when they are created. And then Eru gives them voices and hearing. They're still blind, though. And so when they start singing with Eru, Melkor introduces his own singing, and that clashes with the first theme. And so Eru stops it outright. And then they start a second theme, and Melkor again fucks it up and spoils the second theme. And so Eru fucking stops that one. And then he does a third theme. But Eru counters Melkor by weaving Melkor's theme into it. So where he is loud and vain and disrupts the harmony, he moves it so that for every horrible thing that Melkor's theme is countered by something good. And so he blends those themes together into one cohesive song. And that's the first marring of the world, or Ea. Like, how are you going to show this? How are you going to show this as an interesting series? Like, say this whole, like, say the Anu Lindale is the first season. How are you going to stretch out this whole fucking thing? And that's just the first major part of the fucking plot. That's the first major part of it. Like, not to mention that they create Arda, which is the world, and then fucking Eru Iluvatar shows his children, the Ainur as they are, what the elves and what men are, and that they will be awoken at some point, and that some of the Ainur want to go into the world. And so what happens is, like, some of the Ainur go to the world, and once they go there, they are immediately bound to Arda, and that becomes the Valar and the Maiar. So you have the gods, which are the Valar, and then you have the angelic beings, which are the Maiar. Sauron and Gandalf are Maiar. So are Sauron, Radagast, and the two blue wizards. Like, and then you have them making the world. Literally, the rest of the plot is them making the world for the elves and men to live in. They make the mountains and the forests and lakes and rivers and streams and oceans and continents. And then there's the light. Oh god, here we go. So in the first part of this story, they make two fucking lanterns for light, one at the North Pole and one at the South Pole. Melkor, who is still an asshole, but he's trying to secretly fucking be nefarious, decides, hey, check out this really interesting material I made. And all the gods are like, wow, this is really cool. He makes ice. None of them, like, ice is considered an evil created by Melkor. Snow and ice and winter itself is considered is what Melkor created. It's one of the things Melkor created. It's why winter is so bleak and so dangerous or deadly, which is a common sense thing for a medieval culture or society. Like, winter is always frowned upon and always feared, and it's always looming. Winter, like, I hate bringing up, like, Game of Thrones, but winter is coming is a perfect, like, representation of, like, why people fear it. And Melkor is the creator of this in the Middle Earth legendarium or mythos. And so they don't know what ice is. And so when they put the two lanterns on, the fucking ice melts, the fucking light gets extinguished, and Melkor fucks over the Valar. And then that causes the first war. Like, they take bodily form for the first time. Bodily form. They're just fucking spacious light beings. This whole time up to this point. And Melkor decides, hey, I'm gonna rule over this world that we've created. And so they try to attack him. And so Melkor raises mountains, the Misty Mountains, in fact, as a fucking wall to defend himself, and then he climbs down to his original fortress called Utumno. Like, that's where it ends. Like, They chase after Melkor and he escapes. That's the first chapter in the fucking Legendarium, in the first mythos. How are you going to do that? Like, how are you going to literally make a see if you're doing each chapter and there's only 4 chapters that they can do? 4 chapters. You have the Annual Lindale, the Valaquenta, the Quenta Silmarillion, a Calibeth, and then of the Rings of Power in the Third Age, I think, which is basically just a brief summary of the fucking Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. Like, you have 4 chapters of the Silmarillion you can deal with. And granted, you can do the 3 major stories of the Silmarillion, or the First Age. Beren and Luthien, Turin Turambar and Glaurung the Dragon, and the Fall of Gondolin. That's it. Because the Quenta Silmarillion is literally a summary of the First Age. Turin's story gets 8 pages out of like a 300-page book. Beren and Luthien probably get like 20 pages. The Fall of Gondolin, 10, 15 pages tops, and that's it. In the actual book itself. And then, like, the Valaquenta is literally just the elves wake up and the Valar decide, hey, we're going to move. Like, the Valar at this point, because, you know, Arda, Earth, has been fucked over by Morgoth, which will be Melkor's later name. But Melkor fucking hides in Autumno. He gathers his own followers of Maiar, and they become Balrogs and the first dragons later on in the First Stage. But this is before the First Stage. So he has Balrogs. And he's just sitting there in Autumno, and he's just fucking tinkering around with creations. Like, I think her name is Varda. She's the one that creates forests. She creates the Ents. Well, Morgoth, aka Melkor, takes the Ents and he turns some of them into trolls. Because he can't create life, he can only corrupt it. And so after he fled, the Valar decide to make a new continent called Valinor, and they make the highest mountains in all of Middle-earth to protect them on the eastern coast. Because Middle-earth is to the east of them. And so it's a complete fortress continent. Like, there's no way anything's going to come in without them knowing. And so for the next 1,000 or so fucking years, like a millennia goes by, they're waiting for the elves to wake up so that they can bring them to Valinor. And so Orome, the hunter, one of the Valar, is hunting, and he comes across the elves, and he freaks out. And so at this point, Morgoth has already discovered them, and he's kidnapped some, and he's twisted them and tortured them and broken their spirits and turned them into the first orcs. Like, it is not a story. Like, there's no plot. It's just listings. It's footnotes of what is going on in the fucking story. Like, that's what that second chapter is. It's just, this is what's happening. Here are the enemies. These are the divine beings. This is what this is. This is what that is. And then, like, what like, it describes what the Valar are, what their domains are, what they are known for in the mythologies. Like it's insane. You have Manwë, who's the second created Aenor. He's the brother of Melkor. He's the king of the earth. Eagles, like all birds, especially the eagles, are one of his natural provinces. Like the sky, the winds, and the birds. Then you have Varda. She's married to Manwë. She created the stars. The elves hold her in the highest regard. Ulmo is the master of water. He's the first one to go to Arda before Melkor or Manwë. He loves the Eldar and the elves and men. All waterways are his, and he can communicate through them. Then you have a Yule. He's the smith. He creates the dwarves. And Eru's fucking evil, flat out. I'll state it. Like, he creates the dwarves because he can't wait for the elves and men. Like, he is so excited, he decides to create dwarves. And so Eru flips out on him and says, "You have to destroy them," because he creates 7 dwarves, and there's 7 households or 7 lines of dwarves in the Lord of the Rings, and that comes from these progenitors. And so he can't do it, and so Eru's like, "All right, then, well, they'll go to sleep, put them in the fucking mountains. We'll turn them to stone, put them in the bottom of the mountains, and when the elves wake up, then the dwarves can wake up." And he gives them and like they have their own fate because they don't have the fire imperishable. That's another thing that's not mentioned, that I forgot to mention from the first part. The flame unperishable is basically Eru's power, and he puts it in Arda, and it's just horribly vague. Then you have Yavanna. She's Earth Mother. She's married to Aule. She creates the Ents to kill dwarves because Aule's like, oh well, they're gonna be miners and craftsmen just like me, and they're gonna need fuel for their fires so they can smith. And Yavanna's like, well, I fucking made everything, like all the elements of life, like all the trees and animals and shit. Like I'm gonna make tree herders that'll defend the trees, and that's how the Ents are made. Then you have Fienturi. Oh God, like him, Nemo, and Irmo. Like, it's weird. Like, they are really weird. Like, cause Mondos is death, and he has his own halls, and the elves go there, and men go there before men are sent to their own domain. But the elves live in the halls of Mandos. And then Lorien, and if I remember correctly, Lorien is oh god, I believe Lorien is for sleep or visions or dreams, and then Namo is fucking master of prophecies. Like, it's weird. Then you have Vere. She deals with time, and she makes like the tapestries for the halls of the dead. Then you have Este, Mistress of Healing. Nienna, she's the Weeper. She's sisters to Fientori, who is Mandos. Uh, and she just lives by herself because she's always sorrowful and full of grief. Tulkas is basically Odin. Like, he loves fighting, and he's got a big beard, bushy beard, and he's always drinking and having merriment. Uh, and he's just really fucking quick to anger. And then Nessa is his wife, and she's sisters to Orome, who's the hunter. And he goes during this time, he goes out and kills evil beasts and shit that Melkor makes, and he's always waging war against Melkor. And then you have Vanna, and she's married to Orome. Like, and I did that with the simplest explanation possible. Like, that's the simplest generalization that I could give you to what the fuck happens and the definition of what the gods are. Now imagine, and I didn't even go into full detail. I didn't talk about a lot of their domains, their properties, a lot of their interactions and their personalities, like none of that. I just did their name, who they're married to, and maybe some of what they're about. This TV series is going to have to fucking flesh out this fully. because if they're going to do the Silmarillion, everything that is stated about them is played up in all of the fucking narrative of the Silmarillion. It's insane. I didn't mention the Maiar. I didn't mention I didn't. There's a lot of fucking Maiar. Like there's one who literally just causes shipwrecks, and there's one who tries to help people in the oceans, and they're followed by, and they are the lessers to Ulmo, or fucking Melian. Melian is biggest one of the biggest Maiar that plays the most integral plot to the Silmarillion, because she marries an elf. It is intrinsic that you specify all this. It is integral to the plot, because what happens is the elves wake up, and when Orome finds them, he brings them westwards. And Melkor has already found them. He's already tampered with them, and he's already made the first orcs. And so what happens is Orome brings delegates of the elves to Valinor, because in this point in the story, there's no light. It's perpetual night, and there's stars. That's it. That's all the Valar can do. They can't create light, because if they try to, Melkor will destroy it. So they create two trees that produce light in fucking Valinor, and only in Valinor. So, what happens? Well, once the elves wake up, God, he brings them to Aman to live there, and he teaches them language, and he tells them of the two trees that illuminate Valinor. The first tree's name is Telperion, and the second is Laurelin. Now, these two motherfucking trees, are integral to the plot, because one is called Telperion is Silver Tree, and Laurelin is Gold Tree, and both of them have their own fucking phases, and both of them have certain fucking dews that have pots. The fucking trees drop a special type of dew that is magical light in liquid form, and they Tolkien goes into a lot of fucking description. I believe Telperion is a cherry tree, and Laurelin is a fucking beech tree. And fucking literally, there are giant vats that the gods make to collect the dewdrops from both trees respectively, and they have their own phases. Every 12 hours, one of them stops. Oh god, what is it? Telperion has silver. One side of its leaves silver, and his silver dew is like collected as a source of water and light. And then Varda collects Laurelin's respectively just for herself. And one day lasts 12 hours. Each tree in turn gives off light for 7 hours, waxing to full brightness and then slowly waning, so that 1 hour each of dawn and dusk, soft gold and silver light would be given off together. This is heavily described and exposited to the reader. It is fully put in depth. Like, just how important these fucking two trees are. Like, and it gets more complicated and gets more involved over two fucking trees later in the story. But again, they have the rights to this. They'll totally be able to make this fucking work, right? So what happens is Orome takes the elves and he starts marching them to the coast. And what happens is, as they continue to go westwards, With Orome, some of them don't want to leave, and those are called the Sundered. And then there's some now, there are some who decide, oh well, we'll stay here or here, and they start branching out. So the elves of of Mirkwood are there because they were part of the fucking journey westwards. Now, before this, Orome had brought people, the leaders of these elves, to Valinor, and they are considered the only elves to have seen the light and come back to Middle Earth. Thingol is one of them. Why did I mention Thingol? Well, Thingol, while traveling with his kin westwards with Orome, he comes across Melian, the Maiar, in the woods, and he immediately falls in love with her and is frozen in a trance-like spell by Melian. And both of them marry. An immortal elf and an immortal god or angel wed, and they have a child, and they found the kingdom of Doriath, and his kin can't find him, and so they continue westwards. And so the elves who accepted the summons, get carried across the fucking ocean by a floating island that is pushed by Ulmo, the Valar. And he ferries them by the island load. And then there's three houses of elves in Valinor. You have, oh god, here we go. Oh my god, here we fucking go. Because there's a lot of elves. There's a lot of there's a lot of branches to the elves. You have, uh the first one that's the easiest because that's in the Silmarillion, and if they do this, we'll be following them. Is the Noldor? They're called the gnomes. They're the gnomes in Tolkien's mythos. If you ever read Tolkien's mythos, like his original rough drafts, and you see him talking about gnomes, he's talking about the Noldor. They're the second tribe or elves to they're the second clan to arrive to Valinor, and they're part of the High Elves. But the first to go are the Vanyar, and they're considered the greatest of the elves. And they're the smallest. And Ingwe is their leader. Now, God, here we go. So you have the Vanyar, who are the first, and they're the smallest, but they're the fairest and noblest. Then you have the Noldor, who are considered deep elves, and they're the lore masters. They are the second most populate, and they're the second to come. And they have gray eyes and dark hair, and they are just master craftsmen. They are the everyman elves. They're good at everything or great at everything compared to all other races, but they're not as great as the Vanyar are. And then you have the Teleri, and they're the third, and they decide, hey, we love the sea, so they live on the coast. And they make ships, and all they do is fucking sing, and they live in the near the water, and they're called sea elves. Then you have the other elves, because those three factions, those three fucking clans, those those are high elves. Those are the because you have the Quendi, the Quendi, which are the elves. Then you have the Eldar, which are the elves of the Great Journey from where they awoke. Then you have the Avari, which are the unwilling or the refusers who refuse to go on said journey. And then from the Eldar, there's the Vanyar, the Noldor, and the Teleri. And then of the Teleri, there's those that went to Amon, which are the Falmari, which are the sea elves. Then you have those who remained in Belriand, which are the Sindar, which are the gray elves. Then you have the Nandor, which are wood elves, which also have the Lequendi, which are green elves. So there's wood elves and green elves. That's important in the first stage because there's Osirian, which is a land of 7 rivers where green elves live, and it's the only place where the green elves live. But from the Sindar, the Nandor, and the LXXII come the Manra. The Umanyar. Those not of Aman. And those elves did not go to Aman, but not because they refused. Then you have the Avamanyar, which are part of the Avari, who are the elves who would not go to Aman. Both of those factions, all 4 of them, the Sindar, the Nandor, the LXXII, and the Avari, all of them form the Moraquendi, or the Dark Elves. And those are the elves who do not behold the light of the 2 trees of Valinor. But the Teleri, the Noldor, the Vanyar, and the Falmari are part of the Amanyar, which are those of Aman who reached Aman, and they form the Calaquendi, which are the elves of light, or the High Elves, who have seen the light of the 2 trees in Valinor. Do you see how this is unfilmable? Do you see the sheer information dump that I am dumping onto you poor listeners? Like this is how fucking deep this rabbit hole goes, because there are major characters and plot points that state like, oh well, he's of the Avari, or oh, he's a Moraquendi. Like, that's why he did this. Because he didn't see the light of the 2 trees, therefore he did not deal with the Valar. Like, then you had the exiles. Like, that gets later on into the story. Like, whew, whew, there's a lot of shit. And that's the introduction to the elves, by the way. Because the Quintus Silmarillion is broken up into 9 sections. The introduction to the elves, the Noldor dealing with Melkor, the departure of the Noldor, the sun and the moon and how it's created and how men come into existence, and then the wars, the war for the war of the jewels, Baron and Luthien, Turin to Rumbar, the fall of Gondolin, the war between Morgoth, and then the battle of the War of Wrath. That is the Quintus Silmarillion. That's the meat and potatoes of the Silmarillion. Because what happens is Morgoth was captured when this shit was going down. When all this happened, Melkor was captured and chained. And during this time, God, basically, after he fucked him over with the 2 lamps, there was a big war, and it's not really mentioned, but basically Tulkas and the other gods fought their way into Utumno in the north of Middle-earth and wrestled Melkor, and they chained him. They chained him up. But before this, he had found the elves. That is to be mentioned. And so they besieged they had besieged his fortress at this point. Because they were fearful of what he would do to the elves. And so they finally overthrew him and took him prisoner. And so he served 3 ages imprisoned. And so after that, that's when Orome speaks to the elves, brings them to Valinor, and so on and so forth. Well, what happens is old Melkor, that sly son of a bitch, he's like, "Oh, please remove the chains. I give up my evil ways, and I'm not gonna fuck you guys over. I won't do anything bad." And so Manwë and the others are just like, "Yeah, okay, done." So they remove his chains and shackles, and he's free to walk around in mortal form, talking to elves and stuff. Then comes Fëanor, or Fëanor. Fëanor, or Fëanor, is the greatest elf ever. And don't you say anything else, because Tolkien flat out states he's the greatest elf. He's the greatest craftsman. He's one of the greatest fighters. He's just perfect. Because Fëanor is so fucking badass. He essentially sucked the life out of his mother, like at his birth. She literally, her spirit left her body after giving birth to him because he drained her that much. And so what happens is Fëanor's father, Finwë, remarries and has two other sons, Fingolfin and Finarfin. And again, those two are big key members of the fucking first stage. And so Fëanor creates the Silmarils, where the title of the fucking whole goddamn thing starts. And they are 3 jewels which he was able to trap the light of the 2 trees in. Nobody knows how he made them. Nobody knows how the fuck Fëanor was able to do it. But they are so flawless, so beautiful to behold, that the gods literally hallow them. So any evil or mortal creature who touches them is immediately set ablaze and burned where they touch them. So if you were to grab, like Sten, if you were able to grab a Silmaril, your hand would burn. You would have a permanent burn mark where you held the Silmaril because you are immortal. And as soon as Melkor sees this, he wants it. He wants it. And so what does he do? Melkor starts convincing the Noldor that the gods are lying to him. He starts pinning Fëanor against Fingolfin. Fingolfin is like the perfect ideal for a paladin. Like he is just knightly and perfect and good and tries everything he can to be the best fucking, like he is just one of the most tragic characters in the lore. Like he does everything he can to be the best. Like not like I'm like to be superior, but he just tries to strive to be knightly and good and just and fair, and it just, he's always getting dicked. And so Fëanor, who becomes more and more greedy and paranoid, Melkor fucking is like, well, I'm gonna get those fucking shiny 3 jewels you made. Your brother's trying to take them from you. And so he pits both of them against each other. He causes the Noldor and Fëanor and the rest of the Noldor elves to flat out disrespect and be paranoid against the elves, the gods, because he states that the gods brought them to Valinor simply to keep them under control. And so finally, during one of the many gatherings, Fëanor rebels against them. And he draws his weapon against Fingolfin. And that's a no-no. And so the gods are like, well, we're going to put you on house arrest. And at this time, Melkor's doing his own shit. Because Melkor flees as soon as the gods realize what happened. And because Fëanor threatened Fingolfin's life, he's exiled for 12 years. And so what happens is Melkor tries to trick Fëanor to give him the Silmarils while he's still on the lam. And he doesn't. And so what happens is Melkor goes and encounters Ungoliant, a fucking demon spider from the void. And he makes an oath to give her whatever she desires. And what she wants is the light, because she eats light. How, we don't know, but she just eats light. And so what does he do? He promises her all the food she can eat if she can secretly bring him back into Valinor, he will let her kill the 2 trees. So she does that. And so they slowly sneak in. Ungoliant kills the 2 trees by poisoning them, and she drinks up the sap, and she gets bigger and bigger the more she eats. And then then Melkor hops on her back, and they both fucking sneak off, and they assassinate Feanor's father, Finwë, steal the Silmarils, and then escape in the confusion because the light's gone out. All light has gone out during this party. And so when he does that, Ungoliant wants the jewels. She wants the Silmarils because they have the light. And Melkor's like, fuck that shit. I ain't doing that. And so she tries eating him. And he flips out and starts crying out in pain and horror because he's going to be eaten by a giant demon spider. And so his Balrogs come and save him. And then when they bring him back to his second fortress that he has made as he's been sneaking out of Valinor, called Angband, he places the 3 Silmarils in an iron crown on top of his head. And there they stay. Also, they burn his hands black, by the way, because he's evil. But Feanor's pissed off, finding out that not only has his father been killed, but his 3 jewels have been stolen. And he travels, in violation of his exile, back to publicly blame Melkor, who he now calls Morgoth, which is the Black Enemy, and the Valar for failing to protect him, his father, and the Silmarils. And so he urges most of the Noldor to leave Valinor in a expedition and again, essentially a jihad against Morgoth. And so him and his son swear the oath of Fëanor, which is a big plot point, hint, hint, vowing to pursue with hatred anyone who holds the Silmaril against them. And then there's the kinslaying, where the Noldor kill some of the Teleri because they want their ships to cross the ocean to Middle Earth, and when they don't, they kill them. And Fingolfin doesn't go with Fëanor, but then because he's now technically king of the remaining Noldor and Valinor, he decides, well, I have to follow him and try and bring him back to reason. And so because he follows him, Mandos curses all the Noldor who left with Fëanor. And they cross Helcarax, or Helcarax, which is basically the crushing ice, because Fëanor burns the rest of the ships in the harbors so that the rest of the elves can't follow. So they have to cross over fucking shifting ice plates and fucking floating icebergs, and a lot of them die. Galadriel's mentioned at this point in the fucking story. They assault Doriath. Morgoth attempts to attack Doriath, that is. And Thingol and Million come back in the story. And they're like, oh shit. So Million uses her magic to make the Girdle of Million to protect Doriath. And basically, it's bad times all around for the elves. And then Fëanor finally comes in the badass battle, Dagger Nuin Gileath, called Battle Under Stars, in which the orcs literally assault his forces as soon as he gets off the ships. And he sets fire to the ships, and that's the only way the other elves that are crossing the fucking the ice waste can tell, oh, that's where Middle-earth is, because they can see the fucking whole fleet up in flames. And while they're marching into Middle-earth, tooting their horns, being like, hey, bitches, we're back, that's when the orcs attack, and they fucking destroy them. And then Fëanor's killed by Balrogs. Whoa. There's just so much shit that cannot be feasibly put into a fucking series. Just not. I've been rambling for, holy fuck, probably an hour and a half, just trying to explain all of this in the quickest way. I'm not mentioning the dwarves and how the dwarves come into play with this. Turin and Tuor, Huor, Turin, Hurin, fucking there's so many Turgon, the fucking there's Aeol, the fucking and Maeglin there's just so many fucking characters. Too many. Too many. You have the siege of Angband, which lasts 400 years, and there's just a lull of shit going on. And then like the dagger Aglareb, I think that's the Battle of Sun and Flame or the Glorious Battle. Like that's when the orcs are just completely wiped out in front of fucking Angband. Then you have the fucking uh, the Battle of Sun and Fire, I believe. That's when Glaurung the dragon first appears, and he just fucking burns just the whole fucking area. No, no, no. It's the Dagger Bragalok. That's the Battle of Sudden Flame. That's when Glaurung comes back in full strength. Because in his first one, he's only half grown and he's not fully armored. And Fingon and his archers eventually flee back, eventually are able to push him back into Angband, and he doesn't want to do anything after that. But then you have like Felagund, who's like the first Noldor prince to fucking like make dealings with men, because men come like at this point in time, that's when the fucking men come in. And like men have already been dealt with by Morgoth, and they're completely fucking evil and shit. But there's a few houses that have actually made it to Beleriand, which is part of Middle Earth, that gets sunk. Spoilers to a book that came out in 1979, I think. But yeah, they become the Edain or the blessed the blessed men or some shit like that. There's Beor's people. I think it's Beor's people. Oh fuck. Beor's people. There's three houses. I know that. God, it's the Edain. Fuck. God, trying to think because there's three. I know Beor's people are what they're the ones that take claim to Dorthonion. Oh, that's it. The Halidin, which are the House of Haleth, and then there's the House of Hador. Hador's it because Hador takes place in Hithlum, and Huor, Hurin, and Turin are of the House of Hador, but Turin's also the House of Beor, I believe. Also, the House of Beor resemble the Noldor, which is kind of creepy and it's never fully explained. But like all three of those houses are intrinsically tied to the elves, and they are always staunch allies. And they become the Numenorians later on in the stories. Like because again, Akalabeth, the fall of Numenor, is also one of the stories in the Silmarillion. And like you have to explain the Edain, because after the War of Wrath, they are sent to their own island because they were the faithful. Like, and they were gifted with longer life, not immortality, but longer life. And then then you have to explain Elwing and Erendil, which are part of the no, Tuor. You have to deal with Tuor and Idril because they're in the fall of Gondolin, which birth Erendil, which is mentioned in the Lord of the Rings, the star Erendil, because oh god, because fucking Erendil has a Silmaril from fucking Beren. And Beren is the only mortal or the only being in Middle Earth to prize one of the jewels from the Iron Crown of Morgoth, and that becomes an heirloom. And Erendil, with his wife Elwing, cross the ocean after giving birth to Elros and Elrond. They go to Valinor to plead with the gods to help them by giving them a Silmaril. And what the gods do is they make an airship for Erendil to fly in, and he wears the Silmaril on his forehead, and he becomes the star Erendil. Like, that's his whole fucking story. And his children, Elros and Elrond, Elrond, everybody should know, plays an integral part to the Lord of the Rings. But Elros is Aragorn's distant, by like 6,000 years, ancestor, because he's the first king of Numenor. So technically, Arwen and Aragorn are cousins, distantly related. I mean, vastly distantly related. But like, that's not like, that has to be explained. Like, Turin Turumbar and his fate needs to be explained. Like, there's too much. There's too much, and it is not filmable. Like, maybe you could do the Children of Hurin and the Tale of Beren and Luthien, and that's about it. Like, I can see those being like turned into probably hour-long movies, maybe an hour and a half. Nothing Lord of the Rings lengthwise. But still, you need to like Turin Turumbar is a fairly easy story. Like, I've talked about it multiple times here because it's he's my favorite character. But like, you have to explain Morgoth. You have to explain the Valar because Ulmo's brought up into it. You have to explain Glaurung the dragon and Balrogs. You have to explain the Battle of Unnumbered Tears because his father Hurin gets captured at the end of it. You have to explain like why elves are working with men and why there's some distance. You need to explain Doriath and Thingol and Melian. You have to detail Turin's legacy. You have to explain the fucking helmet that he has. You have to explain Nargothrond, which is an elven city which is built underground by the dwarves because the dwarves and the elves had tidings with each other. Like, you have to explain fucking Tuor that passes Turin because they're both cousins and it's the only time they ever meet each other. And Tuor is going to the mansion of Turgon, king of Gondolin, because he's going to Gondolin at the same time Turin's dealing with his shit, and that ties into the fall of Gondolin with Tuor. Like you got to explain all this shit. And the other thing is, Turin Turumbar's story is fucking depressingly tragic. There's allusions to rape. You got fucking you got incest. You got some sickly incest going on. Like, what else? What else? Glaurung the dragon, like, you have to explain his abilities. Like, I don't think anybody, like, and this goes back to the animated Hobbit movie, because there were people mocking the fact that Smaug has laser beams, quote unquote, or headlights for eyes. That's his vision. Smaug has a special type of vision that allows him to put you in a trance. That's what dragons have in Tolkien's mythos. They can put you in a trance. And so the only way to physically convey that in the animated movie was to give him like beams coming out of his eyes, like spotlights. That's the only way they could do that. Because if you didn't know that, and then you just see him look at Bilbo, and Bilbo went limp, as like just limp, and he just stood there in a trance-like state, you would be like, well, the fuck? You wouldn't know. Because Turin falls for that, and his sister and mother fall for that. Like Glaurung puts a spell, like entrances him and puts him into a spell like stupor. Like it's not, it's explained that that's an ability that Glaurung has, but the reader's reading a summary. They're not reading a story. That's the Silmarillion. It's a series of summaries, not full on stories like the Lord of the Rings. And even in the Lord of the Rings, they explain things. Like movies are a visual narrative. Like there's a reason why people hate, like people bitch about some movies like the Lord of the Rings spending so much time dropping exposition, but you have to, especially for a story that deep and that fucking fleshed out. You have to explain things, because if general audiences go to watch this, they're going to be like, the fuck is this? The fuck is that? Why does this dragon do this? Was that Turin's sister? How didn't Turin know that that was his sister? Or why did Turin's sword can talk? Like why does Turin's helmet cause him to drive fucking all enemies back? Why is Turin never harmed when he wears the helmet? Like, what's so important about the helmet? What's so important about Gurthang, his sword? Like, who's this character? Who's that character? Like, how can Morgoth see everything? Like, why? How can Hurin see? Like, how can Turin's father, Hurin, see everything that's going on? Can he only see what Turin sees, or what's happening to his children? Or can he only see what Turin sees? Or is he only seeing everything that Morgoth sees? Like, they'd be asking so many questions, and when people ask a lot of questions about a movie, they start not liking it. Because then they start going, oh, well, it's too vague. That's the Silmarillion, though. It's all vague. They, like, half the shit was not explained because Tolkien fucking died before he could finish it. The Silmarillion is literally the genesis for most of the debates that Tolkien fans have. Most people argue about things that are happening. Like, one of the biggest arguments is Tom Bombadil. Why? Because he's so vaguely mentioned in the Fellowship of the Ring. Like, and that's it. Honestly, I think someone brave who knows the material should try to flesh this stuff out. That's the problem, Sten. The problem is, and I don't blame the Tolkien estate on some level, but it's the Tolkien estate. Like, you, like, with the way they have their rights written down, and with how defensive they are with Tolkien's works, I doubt anybody will actually try to flesh this stuff out. Like, Christopher Tolkien went through his father's notes for decades. Like, he wrote, like, his first book I think that he wrote was the Silmarillion, and Baron and Luthien he just published this year, and this is his last book. Like I even showed you in the chat, like it was like over almost 2,000 pages or some shit of notes that his father had written. Like, because that's the problem with Tolkien. Tolkien would write stories and then he'd erase whole sections of it and then rewrite it, or like there's whole sections of stories and like fleshed out stuff that is now lost because he wrote it in the 30s on paper with pencil, and it's so faded out that in some of the books I have, Christopher Tolkien's like, I was using magnifying glasses. Like, I was using a magnify, like I was trying to magnify and trying to decipher the shit. I can't. So there's whole sections where like you'll see question marks as to like maybe this is the word or maybe this is what he meant. Like, it's bad. It's why I think it's infeasible to try and flesh this stuff out. And another problem is if Amazon tries to flesh this stuff out, they are gonna have to walk the tightest fucking tightrope walk. Like they're gonna have to skirt across the sharpest fucking knife edge trying to flesh this stuff out, because the problem with the first stage is it's so intrinsically tied to the rest of the lore from the other movies and the other books, that if they try it's the problem, it's the Shadow of Mordor problem in the opposite direction, I guess. Like once you start changing things, it ruins the plot. Like with Shadows of War and Shadows of Mordor, they're like, oh well, Celebrimbor turned into a wraith and he sides with Talion, a ranger of Gondor, and they create a fucking One Ring, and it just makes you go, wait, what? Well, why's this happen then? Like why? Like what happens to him? Why is that great ring of power still around? And why this and that? And like it just raises too many questions. It just becomes a giant plot hole in itself. Like the story they tried to make is just one giant big fucking plot hole. And even at the end of that game and that storyline for both games, it goes back to the status quo. But it leaves those big plot holes and questions still unanswered. So like if they try to flesh out some of the story, like they're going to have to hire Tolkien experts. And that's something that a lot of people I call people out on. Like there is no other stories that I know of in modern times that have scholars talking about it, studying it. You have Tom Sheppe, who's a fucking Tolkien expert. Like you have classes dedicated to Tolkien's works, trying to explain it, trying to go in depth to it, trying to explain the mythology, the legends, the fucking languages, the just everything about it. They are going to have to hire somebody like that so that they can have 100% consistency. And they're going to have to work hand in hand with the Tolkien estate on changes to flesh things out so that they don't fuck up the canon and the continuity. Like they're going to have to do that. Like that's how heavily like we woven in this plot is. It's again, I cannot stress this enough. The Silmarillion is nigh impossible to film. It's why Peter Jackson introduced the White Council in the Hobbit movies. That's the only thing in the Silmarillion that he could add, because that was happening at the same time, and even then he fucked it up because he makes the White Council incompetent. Like a Calibeth is going to be awful because I can see that becoming a Game of Thrones esque like 4 season fucking drag out. Because a Calibeth is literally the Numenorians are the most powerful fucking force in Middle Earth. They challenge Sauron. Sauron surrenders. He becomes their prisoner, and he manipulates them into becoming worshippers of Morgoth and doing ritualistic human sacrifice. And then they were told in the first age never to sail westwards. That was the only terms of agreement. The Numenorians are not to sail westward. And so Sauron puts the fear of death into them. And he's like, the reason why they don't want you to go westwards is because then you won't unlock the secrets of immortality. They want to keep that for themselves. You should sail westwards and declare war against the gods. And so Arphazad, oh god, I forget his fucking name. Fuck. Basically, the last Numenorian king creates a massive fleet, and he goes and he's one of the only mortals to step on the shores of Valinor. And as soon as he does, the gods just send a rock slide down and bury his entire army that landed with him alive. And they're still alive to this day. They will be alive until the end of the world. Like, and because of that, fucking the Valar sink Numenor. And uh Isildur and Elendil and the rest of his kin, the faithful, they steal the white tree, which is a seed from one of the two trees, by the way. They take the white tree, one of the seeds, and they all sail off of Numenor before it sinks, and they land in Gondor, which would later become Gondor, and they land in the Grey Havens, where the remaining Noldor live after the War of Wrath. And Elendil founds the kingdom of Arnor in the north, and Isildur and his brother found Gondor, and they create Minas Tirith and Minas Ithil, two major forts on. Well, we know the White Mountains is where Minas Tirith is, but across the great river Anduin, in the mountains of Shadow, is Minas Ithil, which later becomes Minas Morgul. But between two of them is a giant bridged city called Osgiliath, and that's where both of them rule. Like, too much lore. There's just too much lore. I'm ashamed that I know too much about the fucking shit. Like, and that's how the story ends. It just ends with them, surviving the sinking of their homeland. But I can see fucking Amazon being like, let's stretch it out. And so we're gonna have fucking I can see them having like Game of Thrones shit where they're like Sauron, because it's the last time Sauron has a fair form, by the way. Like after that sinking, he totally does not think of this. Also, he's already forged the One Ring, but he totally forgets. Hey, I'm on a sinking continent. I should get out of here. Nope, doesn't forget. Like his fair form gets destroyed. He goes back to Middle Earth, and he can only take on his monstrous form. But like I could see him being like, "Oh yes," he's gonna be like Grima Wormtongue. He's gonna be whispering in the king's ear, and then there's gonna be political intrigue and all this shit. It's just gonna be awful. There's no fighting in that. There's no fighting in Akalabeth. None of it. It's all political intrigue and human sacrifices. Like that's all they're gonna be able to do. How the fuck are you gonna make a multi-season series out of the Silmarillion? Like if you made short little movies, like hour to an hour and a half, compared to like the length of the Lord of the Rings, maybe. Like again, you could probably only do the three major stories of the First Age and maybe a Calibeth. That's it. Like you could do prologue, or yeah, they'd be prologue or appendix entries. Like you could watch them to know more about the world before you watch the Lord of the Rings, but they're not really necessary. Same with the Silmarillion. You don't have to read the Silmarillion. You'd only want to read it if you want to know more. Like that's what I love about Tolkien's mythos. You don't need to know it, but if you want to know, there's stuff to know. Okay. I'm done for that for now. I am hungry, a little thirsty because I drank my fucking drink that I grabbed, and I think it's time for me to cool off with fucking being annoyed. So I'm going to leave it there because I've been streaming for quite some time. Like, oh Christ, how long? Well over 2 hours. I know that. It's been a while. Like we even lost Jen in that one. Like Jen just went bye bye. She's like Lord of the Rings talk. Oh God. So she left. So I will be catching you, Sten, on the RPG Limit Break. Oh wow, 4 hours. Yeah. I'm gonna watch that because you said it's like around 7 p.m. our time. So if anybody else is listening to this, yeah, go watch it. It's gonna be cool. It's Final Fantasy VI speed run. So I will catch you there, Sten. I'll probably message in like 10, 15 minutes or so, or however long when I get my food. So also Sten will be commentating the match. And it's the opening match to the tournament. So thank you, Sten and Jen, for coming. Thank you for the other people listening. Uh, hope you have a fantastic Friday tomorrow. I know I won't. And I will probably see you guys Saturday. Not sure. I'll see. So, see ya.